I need the softball.
I think you had it. You have the list.
I have the list, okay.
I have to sign.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending the June 26th Township of Long Hill meeting. We are going to start it at 7:33. Would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, could you take roll, please?
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting, specifically the time, date, and public call and information were included in the meeting that was electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel, Morris Daily Record, and posted on the Township website. The agenda and public handouts for this meeting can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. A public comment period will be held in the order is listed on the meeting agenda. Committeeman Dorsey will not be joining us. Committeeman Ray?
Present.
Committeeman Velezza will not be joining us. Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Here.
Mayor Pastercia?
Present. Okay, this is the best part of being mayor. We are on item number 4. We have several proclamations to give this evening. And if I could turn the meeting at this point over to Deputy Mayor Lavender, he will introduce the Central School softball and baseball teams. And Deputy Mayor.
Sure. So first off, we'd like to honor Central School softball. They had a 13-0 undefeated season this year. It's the third year in a row winning the Central Jersey Junior Softball League Championship. And what's really amazing, they only gave up 12 runs the entire season. Coach Hochmeyer, will you stand up, please? Come on up to the mic. Is there a mic up there? This is Coach Peter Hochmeyer of Central School. How many games are there in a season?
In a regular season, we have about 14 or 15 with the rainouts. You never know. It all
So it's
comes around
less
to-
than one run per game.
Oh, absolutely.
What was the most number of runs in a game?
1, 2. How many do we give up? 1?
One.
Don't give it 5. 1, maybe 1 or 2. That's about it. Yeah, we had
we'll
an
take
outstanding
one.
pitching staff that just didn't let it happen.
That's amazing. How many pitchers do you have?
A lot. But we have 3 or 4 dominant pitchers that are probably best. You'll see them at the high school level, and then probably a few that are going to college. Like it's
Awesome.
that good.
And how many runs per game were you scoring, roughly?
I want to say we scored over 170 runs this season.
Holy
So
cow.
you put that into perspective, it's well over probably 13, 14 runs per game.
That's awesome. And how many are going on up to?
We have 8 eighth grader that graduated, so at least I know 5 or 6 of them will be playing probably at the JV level next year, if not the varsity level.
And how many will be returning next year of the team?
That means probably only about 6 or 7.
Okay, so about
we're
about
reloading.
half
Don't
the
worry
team.
about it. We'll be back here next
You'll
year.
be back. You have the core in there, yeah. So I want to read off the names here, and I think I know a lot of these. That's why Mr. Pastercia gave this to me, because I actually pronounced the names correctly. So Madeline Falvey. Why don't you stand up as I call your names? Madeline Falvey?
Not everyone's here.
Not everyone's here. How about Ellie Clark?
Yes.
Hey, Ellie. Deidre Vanderstreet?
Nope.
Is Deidre here?
No, dude.
Okay. Micah Pritzlaff? No, Micah. How about Leah Sakaris? Bella Wiggins? Riley Hall. You're here. Your dad's here.
Dad's here.
No. Okay, she's playing softball.
They're all
of
playing
course.
softball right now. That's that's why we're so good.
Lena Storer. Catherine Wanamaker.
I wish.
Orla Butler.
Here we go.
Ella Jambrone.
Yes.
There we go. Paige Anthony. Is Paige here?
Yes, Paige is here.
Hey, Paige. Ariel Varvar.
No, not yet. Nope.
Okay, and Ava Mayo.
Yes.
Hey, Ava. So let's give a hand again to everybody here. Girls, congratulations. Which one of you are going on to high school? And who's returning next year? All right, you guys got to carry the weight next year. This is great.
No pressure.
So thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you.
Awesome
Appreciate it.
job.
And thank you guys for, looking out for us every year. It's outstanding, and we really do appreciate all the support. Thank you,
it's terrific.
all the
Thank
parents
you.
as well. Thank you.
We're going to do baseball, and then we'll do some photos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so next, Central School baseball team. So they had a great season. The boys went 10-0 in their division. They finished the regular season 10-1, with that loss coming in and out of conference game where they lost 7-6. The boys earned the number 1 seed, where they went on to defeat South Hunterton in the first round, 8-3. In the semifinals, the boys found themselves down 5-3 in the 5th inning to Bound Brook, and they scored 1 in the bottom of the 5th to cut it to 5-4. And then in the 6th, they tied it and then took the lead 7-5 with a 2-out, 2-run triple by Brady Simo. Good job. In the final, they played Valley View, and the boys did what they had done all year. They won. They had hits from Simo, Sheehan, Cerami, Hansen, Kerwin, and O'Connor. Solid defense from the team, and another great day on the mound by Lucas Sheehan. The final was 10-0, and a great way to end the season. So the boys are very proud of the way they carry themselves. The coach is very proud of the way the boys carried themselves all year and for what they accomplished. So, Coach Simo, are you here? Okay, Coach Tim Simo's not here, but I'm gonna read the names of the boys. If you're here, please stand up. Dylan Braverman, Joey Cerami, Jordan Hotra, Michael Martinez, Lucas Sheehan, Brady Simo, Tyler Diaz, Tim Hansen, Dylan Hurley, Patrick Kerwin, Towns O'Connor, Mason Hotra, Michael Anthony, and Gavin Maharaj. Boys, congratulations. Now, which one of you guys are going to high school next year? All right, and the rest of you guys, you're going what grade are you in now? You're going to be in 8th grade next year? 7th grade? Okay, all right, so you're the core of the team. You're coming back. Well, great job. We appreciate you coming here. We'd love to recognize achievement like this. Good job. So everybody give them a round of applause, and then we're going to do some, let's do some photos. Mr. Pasertia?
Can we go down?
Yep, we can go down.
Okay, you got softball, you got baseball.
Okay.
So they have little things for you guys, so if you wanted to get up.
Yeah, thanks.
So let's have the softball team come up.
And Coach, what I'll do is I'll move you the others.
Did you want me to take them and just come by town hall? Okay.
So who gave up the 2 runs? Somebody gave up 2 runs. That's what happened. This is the hardest thing all night, being up here, getting pictures and stuff. And now staying on this side.
You guys want to move out of the screen? Nice.
Congratulations, you got the big hit, right? And now we have, believe it or not, 3 Eagle Scouts. And I won't read the entire proclamations. I'll read the items that are specific to the Eagle Scouts themselves. First, brief description. Whereas the Boy Scouts of America is a volunteer organization, it is one of the nation's largest and most prominent values-based youth development organizations. So the first of our Eagle Scouts is John Deck. He has been an outstanding member of the Boy Scouts of America, Troop 56. John earned 30 merit badges, some of his badges, or his favorite badges, being climbing, cooking, shotgun shooting, rifle shooting, plumbing. And it takes years of dedication to reach this level. What is it, 5% or less? 3%. 3% of all Boy Scouts ultimately go on to earn their Eagle Scout. Our former Congressman Lance, was an Eagle Scout, and he was very, very proud of Eagle Scouts, and he often made every effort to be here when we present, and we will invite him to any special events that you guys have. John Deck has demonstrated the spirit of volunteerism through his Eagle Project, constructing a fire pit and patio on the Elks Lodge property. The fire pit and patio will be used by the local Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, as well as the Elks Lodge members. Deputy Mayor Lavender's an Elk?
Yeah, anyone who's been to the Elks has seen what a fantastic job it is. It was really an awesome project.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor cut me off before I said I'm an Elk, too. Was that on purpose?
Yeah, you are an Elk.
John Deck graduated from Seton Hall Prep and will be attending Fairfield University to study electrical engineering with a concentration in computer science. So please, everybody, a round of applause for John. And I think, congratulations. We will have everybody come up together? Or okay.
Have them all come up. Gavin, come on up. Sean, stand up here.
Yeah, if we're going to embarrass you, let's really go full on. Gavin, raise your hand. There he is. All right. Gavin Eggers has been an outstanding member of the Boy Scouts of America, Troop 56. Gavin earned 36 merit badges, including merit badges for environmental science, camping, and traffic safety. As we said earlier, it takes years of dedication and commitment to earn the Eagle Scout rank. Reminder, 3% of all that enter Boy Scouts actually earn Eagle Scout. Gavin has achieved the prestigious rank of Eagle Scout by demonstrating the spirit of volunteerism through his Eagle Project by building bird boxes in the Great Swamp. 9 bird boxes were constructed and included Easter Phoebe boxes, a kestrel box, and also included a written plan on how to take care of the boxes. Gavin will be attending trade school for HVAC. Congratulations to Gavin. And by now we know which one Sean is. Raise your hand though. There you are. Sean also has earned 38 merit badges, along with 3 Eagle Palms, and has logged 158 service hours, 133 hiking miles, and 81 camping nights. Sean has demonstrated the spirit of volunteerism through his Eagle Project by beautifying the senior center, and anybody who's been there sees what a beautiful job Sean has done by enhancing the landscaping and signage at the facility. Sean recently graduated from Watchung Hills Regional High School and was a part of the National Honor Society and Art Honor Society. Seton Hall will be attending Rutgers University. I attended Seton Hall, both undergrad and grad, but I will not hold that against you this evening. But when basketball season starts, you and I can have a conversation. He will be majoring in biological sciences. Everybody, please, a nice round of applause for Sean. Did you want to do it now before Jim? Okay. Fair enough. John, right? You stayed the same order? All right, there you go. Congratulations. John, congratulations. Yeah, congratulations.
That's a scout handshake, the other two.
I was gonna say. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Very nice.
And the reality is, none of these young men would reach the level of Eagle Scout or even enjoy being a member of the Boy Scouts without the leadership that goes along with it. I see many who are here this evening, including Deputy Mayor Lavender. But we do have a special proclamation for one particular person, and I will read this one in full. Whereas the Boy Scouts of America is a volunteer organization and is one of the nation's largest and most prominent values-based youth development organizations. And whereas the Boy Scouts of America has been active in Millington since 1912, and Troop 56, sponsored by All Saints Episcopal Church in Millington, has been a chartered troop since 1932. Whereas Jim Caparoso of Sterling, New Jersey, affectionately known to past and present Troop 56ers as Mr. Cap, became a Scoutmaster of Troop 56 in Millington in 2011 and officially retired from that position in May of 2024. Whereas Jim Caparoso executed his responsibilities as Scoutmaster and Youth Program Leader in an exemplary fashion, helping to develop the character and well-being of local youth according to the principles of the Boy Scouts of America. And whereas Jim amassed 4,749 days as Scoutmaster, 577 days of camping, countless miles of hiking, including the 250-mile award, and countless hours leading youth in community services. Whereas the strongest evidence of Jim's mentorship is the fact that 53, and remember we said only 3%, 53 young men attained the rank of Eagle Scout during his tenure, and even I can do the math. You talk about 2011, that's 1353 divided by 1353. Do the math for me. That's four per year.
Yeah.
4 per year.
Pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. 1 year you had 5. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the mayor and the township committee of the township of Long Hill in the county of Morris, state of New Jersey, and on behalf of the residents of Long Hill Township on June 26, 2024, that Jim Caparoso be hereby recognized with deep gratitude for his service to the community and to the youth of Long Hill Township. Jim? Sorry about that. Jim, would you like to say a few words? I think it's appropriate.
Well, all the years I had such a good time. I mean, I'm just glad they took me along for the ride. I mean, Mr. Lavender was with me through a lot of this. You see the young guys come over in middle school, and then getting to the rank of Eagle is a very proud moment for me, for the troop, for the township. So a lot of us know Troop 56 through our flower sale every year. So especially when we're right up front, in the middle of town in Gillette there. But I couldn't be more proud, of what we've done with Troop 56, our leaders, and all our scouts. I just really appreciate that I got to do this for Troop 56 and the scouts in this troop. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As I said earlier, that everything that we did just now for the last half hour or so is the best part of the privilege of sitting up here. So thank you, everybody. And I think with the outstanding accomplishments by our sports programs, by our young men and women in the sports programs, and in particular this evening, the Eagle Scouts, it's obvious that Long Hill Township, we may be small, but we punch above our weight. So congratulations, everybody. A little bit more mundane stuff going forward. I don't know. You're welcome to stay as long as you'd like. Now we just have to carry on with the business of the township. Item number 5, Capital Ordinance 546-24. This is first reading, introduction, providing for various improvements. Yeah, I'm getting bored even reading this, so don't you worry.
Can I join you?
By the Township of Long Hill in the County of Morris, New Jersey, and appropriating, maybe if I said it with more exuberance, well, yeah, $2,570,000, therefore, from various funds of the township. Now, I don't know, Randy, can you give a brief, high-level overview of what I just said?
Yeah, this ordinance puts into, for first reading, puts into our capital program for 2024, which will include some road overlays, reconstruction of Long Hill Road, section of municipal building parking lot, Cantor Park pathways, purchase of some equipment for police and emergency equipment for the fire departments, and does some recreation improvements and at the recreation improvements at Sterling Lake and the park and the some senior building improvements. Also includes repaving of a parking lot for Millington train station and the cafe parking lot in front. Also includes some DPW equipment.
Okay. Since this is first reading, I'll look for a motion to approve ordinance 546-24.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. Ordinance 547-24, first reading, introduction, updating the police department organization chart by clarifying the duties of the public safety director and the law enforcement executive and amending chapter 2 of the township code entitled administration. Brendan, I know you have to recuse yourself from voting, but I mean, there's no issue with Brendan sitting.
He can make the quorum.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, I think ultimately you would abstain. But I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that. Jack, if you wouldn't mind just outlining what we're doing here this evening?
Yes, Mayor. The purpose of this ordinance is to clarify the duties of the new public safety director, as well as what we have been calling the officer in charge, but in this ordinance it's referred to as the law enforcement executive at the request of Director Peoples, just because he said the term officer in charge is never defined anywhere in the statutes. So the purpose is to make it clear that the public safety director, it really manages the department except in purely law enforcement functions, in which case the law enforcement executive will take over. An example would be an accident scene or a catastrophe scene of some sort. In those cases, when we're talking strictly about law enforcement functions, then the law enforcement executive will in fact be the commander.
Okay. Brendan can ask questions or comments, or no, nothing at all?
He should not.
He should not, okay. Scott, any questions or comments?
I'm good.
So I'm good. At this point, I will look for a motion to approve 547-24, first reading, and I apologize, I should have pointed out, ordinance 546-24, and this ordinance, 547-24, 546-24, and 547-24, are scheduled for second reading adoption on July 17, 2024. Looking for a motion for approval.
So moved.
And I'll second it and ask Megan to please take.
Committeeman Ray,
Abstaining?
Deputy Mayor Lavender,
Yes.
Mayor Pasergia.
Yes. So, ordinance 534-24, second reading adoption. An ordinance regulating temporary mobile retail food establishments commonly known as food trucks, and supplementing and amending Chapter 4 of the Township Code entitled General Licensing. So what I'd like to do here is level set a little bit so we know how we got here this evening. Sometime last year, and I don't know if I see Gary Giannakis, the president of the chamber, out there, but sometime last year, the chamber approached us because I think there was a food truck coming into town at where the Sterling Liquors is, and we were trying to, the chamber was trying to figure out how to best serve the community and what would be fairest to the owners of other places in town. And, so we started having some dialogue about that. I believe in January, there was a proprietor of a food truck that came in looking for a license. We didn't know the derivation of that at that point. As time went on, we realized that the owner of Oak Flower was interested in having a food truck show up one night a week, I think, when it was first discussed at, I don't know what meeting it is. We have that date somewhere, Megan. I don't know if you know it offhand. But whatever it was, the discussion came in public as to what the desire was of Oak Flower. And we had some dialogue back and forth in public. I think the original ask was one night a week. Jack, if your
That's my
recollection.
recollection.
One night a week. And I think Committeeman Verlezis said, well, hold on a second. Why don't we try to make this a little bit more of a holistic solution? And we came up with the idea that it might be 3 or 4 or 5 days a week, evenings a week, or et cetera. The owner of Oak Flower, my recollection, in public here, stated that he wanted to be a good neighbor with the Millington Cafe, which was across the street. For all those that are customers of Millington Cafe, their hours, I think, are 7 to 3, but certainly 3. 3 p.m. is when they close. So the ask became, can we have food trucks when the Millington Cafe closes at 3 p.m.? And I think the Township Committee went back and forth. We had to figure out parking. So all this was at the request of the owner of Oak Flower as to what can work for them. And we tried, a little bit of threading the needle, what would also be fair to the proprietors of the Millington Cafe. So what we ended up coming up with, I believe, was, I don't know why 2 hours parking, we certainly could have made it longer, for the food truck, starting at 3 p.m. on whatever days the food truck would be there. And that's what we agreed to. Now, about a month ago, a concern was raised to us that the food trucks had started to arrive earlier than 3 p.m. And so at that point, we added a line that said the food trucks could not be open for business if a food establishment was within 100 feet and open. And so we added that line. I think it's important to understand there was no ordinance regarding food trucks until now. This is not an additional restriction. This is an ordinance that is being put in place in part because the chamber approached the township committee sometime last year, long before state law. By the way, I should point out, state law changed in January
I believe so.
to allow food trucks or to allow some type of accommodation
It was for the brew pubs or the.
for the brew pubs specifically. And I'm well aware that there are some brew pubs that have food trucks outside. For example, there's a place called Untied in New Providence. I had a lengthy conversation with the mayor of New Providence last night, Mayor Al Morgan. He's probably watching right now. And in Untied is in a industrial park type area. There are no food establishments near Untied. The other one that was brought to our attention is Twin Elephants. So I went online, it's pretty easy to figure this out. The closest food establishment to Twin Elephants is River Grill, and that's 1,600 feet away from Twin Elephants. So the ordinance we're proposing would in no way affect either of those breweries. The evolution as to why it is where we are was specifically requested by the owner of Oak Flower. And we've tried as best we can to accommodate that request. In fact, we made it a little bit more liberal. By, instead of one night a week, we suggested anytime you're open. I think. I don't think we limit it to days or
No, we do to 3 days.
to 3 days, okay. But the original ask was only 1 day. So I want to make sure everybody is aware how we got here. This is not an ordinance that's been in Long Hill Township for years. This is second reading. The first reading was, I don't know when the first reading was, it just kept rolling forward a little bit. But we're in June. The first time it came to our attention was a food truck, a person coming in January looking for a permit. And it is true, we have no issue with the food trucks arriving earlier because they have to be inspected. It's just not open for business while a food establishment is open within 100 feet, but specifically that is the Millington Cafe, and they close at 3 p.m. And we absolutely want people eating if they're going to be enjoying a beverage or two. But we also have to be fair to everybody. We have to be fair to the community that surrounds that area. We have to be fair to any proprietors that exist, and I'm sure a lot of people here have attended Oyaz. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. That's a business that came out of nowhere. We did not know that was coming until it moved very quickly, and I give a lot of kudos to township employees because everything worked. The owners of Oyaz have said remarkable things about the people here who helped that move along quite quickly. Business there is booming, so good on them. They're going to be great neighbors for us here in this community. So if anything I said is inaccurate, I'm willing to be corrected. But my memory is quite good when I ask it to be. And I'm pretty certain what I just said is factually accurate. With the one exception, I don't remember the first date we discussed it here in public, but we have a link to that meeting. And Megan, if you could, I think I have it in my phone, I can look it up. I can point anybody who wants to watch that meeting when the ask was first made of the Township Committee. And that's how we ended up here. The only change in this ordinance was that one line. We added 100 feet because we became concerned that food trucks had started to arrive, open for business before the Millington Cafe was closed. So, Brendan, Scott, if anything I just said in your recollection is inaccurate, please correct me.
No, I'd like to ask Jack to opine. And Jack, I want to walk through this with you just so I
Sure.
make sure I understand it.
Yep, absolutely.
And I apologize if this is tedious for anybody, but I think it's useful. So the first thing this thing's doing is establishing licensing for a temporary mobile food establishment, a food truck, right?
That's correct.
It defines what that is, and I think we all know what it is, but it very specifically lays that out in 472. In 473, it talks about what kind of information is required and the fee for that license.
That's correct.
And I'll kind of summarize the gist of it. It sounds, the way I read this, you can apply for that permit for that truck anytime during the year,
That's right.
and it's valid until December 31st of that year.
That's correct.
So if you apply for it in January, it's good till the end of the year, almost 12 months. If you apply for it in October, it's good till the end of the year, maybe 4 months. Either way, the cost of that's is $100 for that license?
That's correct.
All right, and you need to submit that 14 calendar days prior to when it's going to go live, let's say.
Yep.
All right, so that's the process for applying. And I don't know if it's in here, but obviously there has to be a health inspection, right?
That's correct. And that's one of the checklist items.
There's a checklist item, so that's standard, that's required of any restaurant, right? A Board of Health
Yes,
inspection?
that's right.
And the second thing would be a fire inspection?
That's right.
Right,
And
and
both
so.
of those would be required regardless.
Right. And so the fire inspection's required. I don't know if you've seen some of these trucks. They have these large propane canisters hanging off the back. And to have those within so many feet of a building is a potential hazard. So the fire inspector needs to check that. Now, is there a cost for the health inspector or the fire inspector? Megan?
I'm sorry?
Is there a cost incurred by having to do a health inspection or a fire inspection?
Correct. There is either a $30 fee for a temporary food establishment license, or they can opt in to do a $110 license, which will last them the whole year.
Okay, how does that fit into the $100 fee here?
They're two separate fees.
They're two
So
separate
this one
fees.
is more letting us know where and when they will be at the different locations. Because what we were seeing that was happening with fire and with the health department is they would just show up and we wouldn't know, and they wouldn't necessarily be licensed with the township. So this is just kind of letting the township know where and when they will be, just to make sure that they have those licenses and those protections.
So this is effectively like a registration.
Correct.
Right, and then the fire inspection fee, so that you can do it every time you show up, it's one amount?
So back at I believe it was the May 24th meeting, you guys adopted a second option for them, which was a $500 type 1 annual permit, which basically said that you only had to fill out the permit once, but you had to alert the fire marshal when you would be there in case he wanted to go out and inspect it, because technically every single event that a food truck has, there's, like you said, the propane tank moves around.
So the fire inspector, so this kind of prepays for him if he
Correct.
optionally wants to come
Correct.
out.
But you still have the option to do the one-time fee of the 54.
Right, so-
You were giving them optionality there.
Right, so the town would be covering its costs either in advance or on a per trip basis.
Correct.
Because the fire inspector costs us money.
Correct.
Right, okay, so let me keep moving.
Deputy Mayor, can I just interject one thing? And this is a big moment for me.
Don't take me too far off my trajectory.
This
here,
is a
though.
big moment for me. I get to correct Megan, which is almost impossible to do. The dates of the meetings, I said I had them, and I'll repeat them. When we were moving along with the first introduction and we had interaction with members of the public, owners, et cetera, was April 24th. The meeting that you referenced was May 22nd. I think you said May 24th, so that gives me joy to be able to say that. And the last meeting was May 11th. I would add something on a more serious note. The health department did reach out to me, and their concern is they do not believe the $30 fee covers the expense, and they are recommending that we increase it to $50. Megan, I think you've had conversations to that point as well.
But that's not part of this ordinance, that's part of the health inspection.
That's correct. But I
All
just wanted to-
this ordinance is covering is the registration of the truck.
That's
Yep.
correct.
And so,
Right.
Deputy Mayor, I turn it back to you.
So then there is a bulk fire inspection fee or a per visit fee if they opt for that, and then there's a Department of Health inspection
Either a
fee.
one-time fee or an annual fee.
Now, I'll ask you a question, shooting from the hip here, and you didn't expect this. These kind of fees are also fees that restaurants in town would have to incur, right?
Correct, yes. We have a fee ordinance for any sort of restaurant. They have to pay based on their square footage. They get inspected annually by the Board of Health, correct?
And the fire inspector.
Yes, correct.
Okay, all right, so fairness there. All right, so then the next section is a long section, 474, which establishes the rules and regulations. So Jack,
That's correct.
we're gonna walk through this together, and you're gonna help me understand this.
Sure.
So these are all the lines painted on the road, so to speak, the restrictions. So
Yes.
shall operate between 7 a.m. No, it should not operate before 7 a.m. or after 10 p.m.
Yes, not more
Okay.
than 3 times a week, no more than 8 hours per day. is
Right.
The preceding paragraph.
And that 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. doesn't include a 30-minute grace period on either end for setup.
That's correct.
Okay. So it may operate legally on street parking locations or from illegal off-street parking. Yeah, that gets into parking. I should back up a little bit because at the front of this, it talks about some restrictions on property. So first off, it brackets it to non-residential zones. So that means commercial properties, right?
That's correct, except later in the ordinance, it does allow them for special events in residential zones.
Right, but that's
General.
less confusing than it just sounds.
That's correct.
For all intents and purposes, what we're talking about here is commercial property,
Yes,
and property owners may invite a temporary mobile retail food truck no more than 3 times per calendar week.
correct.
All right, and then the truck's got to be moved when it's done.
Yep,
Okay, this is letter E, section E. Temporary food establishments shall not operate within 100 linear feet of a brick-and-mortar retail food establishment while that establishment is open unless the owner of the brick-and-mortar retail food establishment consents in writing. So if a restaurant says it's okay, and they wrote it down, and I assume an email is okay, or a text,
absolutely.
then it's okay.
Yes,
But otherwise, can't do it if that other restaurant's open. But as soon as that other restaurant's closed, if it's within that 100 feet,
that's correct. And we discussed this at length.
right.
This whole
and-
provision.
Right, and so if somebody's 105 feet away, that doesn't apply.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. But the thing that caught my eye is that as long as there's an understanding between the business owners, they can figure it out themselves, so we don't have to litigate this.
Exactly.
Not obstructing with the free flow of traffic, blah, 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 sight triangles, this is all, motherhood and apple pie as far as safety. So not solicit business from pedestrians, that's in fitting with our solicitation laws. No amplified music or loudspeakers, I think that's fair. Well, at least in my opinion, that's fair. No lighting except localized lighting. There's a restriction on signage, 12 square feet, not obstructing traffic, limited to the sale of food and beverage, assume that's non-alcoholic beverages.
That's correct.
Well, it says right there, no sale or service of alcohol. At least one trash receptacle, associated equipment, self-contained, it all makes sense, that's consistent with the definition. Can't hook into any on-site utility, so you can't run a gas cable
Right.
or an electric cable, right?
Correct.
Okay,
You have to be self-contained.
all right. And we just require that they have their documents on, in them, their license, et cetera. And then it says the Board of Health license, the valid safety permit. Okay, that's where that restriction came in. So then it gets into 475, which talks about insurance, an indemnity agreement, blanket coverage of $1 million for liability. I think that makes sense. A hold harmless, a properly executed indemnity and hold harmless by which the sponsor agrees to hold the township harmless. That protects the township, right?
That's correct.
All right. And then it has some things that are exempt from this. So frozen confection vendors going from place to place on the street. So your Mr. Softy trucks, I
Ice
guess.
cream trucks.
Ice cream trucks. Does anybody remember Mr. Softy?
I do.
Yeah, pretty good. It's okay to have in front of a site that has active construction to feed the workers.
Right.
That's very thoughtful of you, Jack. Special events that have obtained licenses pursuant to 4(6) of the code. Explain that. That's C.
Yeah, that, you can have food trucks at special events, even in residential zones. So they're only subject to those enumerated paragraphs of the rules and regulations set forth earlier. Have to go back and forth.
I believe
so-
that was referring to the special events, like the Sterling
Correct.
Street Fair.
Yep, that's correct.
And the same thing for block parties
I
and
was going
stuff
to say,
like
you could have a
that.
block party and have a food truck at your block party as well.
Okay, and then it talks about enforcement. The police will enforce this. And the code enforcement officer, and it talks about penalties and violations according to our standard code. All right, so Jack, what did you use as the model for this?
I looked and I gathered ordinances from a number of other towns. In my experience, most suburban towns do not permit food trucks. Usually it's cities like Hoboken, you know, that allow food trucks on the waterfront. This was, I think, Branchburg or one other town was the one I used primarily for a lot of these provisions that I wouldn't have thought of. So, and then we discussed it a number of times here at the Township Committee level, and we tried to adapt it to Long Hill Township. And to serve our purposes, to both allow the food trucks and also protect owners of restaurants who have to get zoning approvals and pay taxes on their property.
So, yeah, let me stop you there. So without this ordinance, if this didn't exist, there would have to be a planning board site plan approval to have a food truck, for instance, say, in a parking lot.
Yes, in my opinion, because that business, say it's a brew pub, they got planning board approval to run that business as the primary business on the property. In order to have a second business, they would have to get planning board approval for that additional use. In addition, the planning board site plan approval would specify the number of parking spaces that are required. So if you have a food truck there on a semi-permanent basis, it's going to use up some of those parking spaces, and therefore you'd be in violation of your site plan.
So
approval.
so this ordinance would be really protective of the ability to put that food truck there, because without the site plan, it could be challenged.
Yes, and with respect to the on-street parking, they take up more than one parking space, so they're in violation of our traffic regulations. So really, this ordinance allows for food trucks as opposed to restricting. them.
Right, because in a vacuum, if someone didn't like this, they could challenge it and point the law and say, this is out of bounds.
Correct.
Okay.
And in my opinion, without this ordinance, food trucks would not be permitted for the reasons we discussed.
Right. So we really can't kind of look at this and say, well, let's just look the other way and be lenient.
That's correct. What happened was when the first few came in, Megan and I talked, and we didn't want to shut them down while this was being discussed. So we decided the best way to proceed was to allow them with fire and health inspections while the Township Committee came up with a policy.
Got it. Okay. I'm done. I think I understand it. Jack, thank you. That was
So
good.
Jack, just a couple of follow-ups if you don't mind. Brent, well, actually, I apologize, Brent.
Oh, no, please, I'll opine later.
I think, well, the restriction where no food is allowed at brew pubs, is that a local ordinance or a state
No,
law?
that's state law, state regulations.
So I think everything we have been doing, dating back to last year when food trucks first arrived, when it was brought to our attention by the chamber, to today, is to help businesses in town, not to restrict them.
That was the sole purpose of this ordinance.
Let me ask you a question, too, something that just came to mind. So, like the firehouse has had food trucks, charitable organization, is that covered under this, or were they exempt from it anyway?
It's private property.
I'm sorry?
It's private property, so as long as it's
So it'd be a special event?
a special
Be a
event.
special
Got it.
event,
Okay,
exactly.
good.
So they're covered by that.
Same for, like if the Elks wanted to do it. same
Exactly.
thing, yeah.
They could have a special event. and-
Or remaining in fair, when the food
Right.
trucks come in, right?
All right.
And here's a little trivia. Does anybody know who wrote the brew pub bill?
Tom Kane?
It wasn't any of us, that's for sure.
I like your answer better, but Deputy Mayor Lavender's response is correct. Then Senator, State Senator Tom Kane, now our Congressman, is the author of the bill, which led to what is a very good thing that's happening throughout the state. So, Congressman, if you're listening, we remember.
Yeah, he's glued to his TV right now watching us. No doubt about it.
He never misses.
Yeah. So,
He may be taping it.
yeah, it could be. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
that's right.
I mean, great discussion of the ordinance, great discussion of how we got here, right? But it seems to me that there's really one sentence here that is the issue.
Which section you at?
That would be section E of
Got it.
47.4.
Okay, yes.
Where the temporary food establishment shall not operate within 100 linear feet of a brick and mortar retail store when they're open. And, whenever we had so many discussions over this, it all sounded great. It's all sounded wonderful, 100 feet, great. I think that's the issue here. And, on reflection, I really wonder if this is a wise decision to have this in here because... No, what we're doing here is we are curtailing the ability of the residents and visitors to Long Hill Township to have access to multiple kinds of food, right? Whenever they come, it's especially important whenever it's an establishment serving serving alcohol, that everybody should be able to eat what they want when they want, and everything that we can do to make that happen and give them as much choice as possible. For me, that makes the most sense, and I think this is a great ordinance, but for that.
So you what you're saying is you're good with the whole thing except E?
Yeah.
And you would strike out E?
I would strike out E, and I think you have a good ordinance that meets all of the objectives that we just laid out.
It was actually in the ordinance, then we took it out, then we put it back in, and we changed the linear feet over the course of our discussions.
I mean, the other thing too is, you want to protect your businesses. I mean, maybe that's a default, but is that really a good thing? Because you're stifling competition. Competition brings quality. That's, for me, that's what we could be doing. So. My recommendation would be to strike that section.
So what you're recommending is different than what the ask was. The ask was very specifically when any food establishment, there's only one there at the time, or there was only one there at the time, was open. The ask was, and the dates are 2/14, February 14th was the first time we discussed it, March 13th, intro, 4/24 amended, 5/22, and then this evening. I want to be clear. What you're recommending is completely different than how we got here this evening.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that's fine. I mean, how we got here is one thing, but we're here, and there's something that doesn't entirely make sense to obviously everybody who's here and to me. So the rest of it is very good. Let's just take it out, and let's just give visitors and residents of Long Hill the biggest choice possible when it comes to food. That's it.
I would counter that by saying, to my knowledge, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist, to my knowledge, there is no brew pub that has, outside of, say, what was it, Branchburg, Cities, Hoboken, Morristown, Parsippany, big towns. I haven't found one town that allows food trucks directly counter to an open food establishment. Morris Plains does have a brew pub. I spoke to the mayor. In fact, I was with the mayor last night. They don't allow a food truck near an open food establishment. I mentioned Chatham, which is Twin Elephants. I referenced Untied, New Providence, Industrial Park. And I can name 15 towns in Morris County that I spoke with, not Parsippany, not Morristown. None of them allow food trucks outside of special events and inside parks. So what you're suggesting is maybe, I don't want to say revolutionary.
Well, no, I mean,
Well, I'm all ears. Please, somebody name one town that allows a food truck outside an open food establishment.
I know, but I mean,
Hold on,
this
you'll
is
have
not-
your
this
you'll
is
have
not
your
public
chance to
session.
talk.
I think one of the things that I would say, Guy, is you've done an extensive analysis. I'm sure you're 100% right, but I think it's just because my father used to say if everybody else jumped off a cliff, would you do it? It's like no, it's we have to make a stand for something that actually makes sense, right? And for me, I would say that all those other towns are perhaps misguided because, again, they're in this default as to, hey, I've got to protect our brick and mortar businesses. But is that really the right thing for everybody?
that's a fair question.
Because of competition. Competition breeds quality and actually brings more people in. Once you have that high quality of food, people are coming into the town.
And by the way, I don't necessarily disagree with the context of the ask. If that's the ask now, okay, let's have that conversation. But I want to be exceedingly clear, that was never the ask. When it was first brought to us, the ask was one night a week. It was this committee that recommended 3.
Yep. No, I absolutely. I mean, I think we've worked in concert with everybody to try and make this the best it possibly could be, and I see this as an evolution, right, of an idea that started off some months ago, but we are where we are today. We have a good ordinance in front of us, in my opinion, but for this one section, we delete it, and I think we're leading the way in this area where 10 years ago food trucks weren't that popular. Nobody really heard of them, but now they're becoming more and more mainstream. They're becoming part of the culinary culture, and so
brew pubs weren't, I honestly don't know, when were brew pubs approved in the state of New Jersey?
5 years
yeah,
ago.
they've been around, but so.
So this is really a new...
Yeah, so what we're doing here is, maybe we are leading the way here amongst municipalities of our size, but just because they're not doing it doesn't say that.
Let me kind of jump in and maybe bridge between the both of you here, because I understand the concept of how ideas can evolve, and I am sensitive to commitments that are made between businesses. The situation changed a little bit down on that corner when the Turkish restaurant came into the picture, right? Because for all intents and purposes, you could walk to the cafe, you could walk to Oyaj, you could walk to the food truck and get something to eat. I understand that. And I understand, the chamber's intent to protect businesses that do pay taxes, right? And, make capital investments to, grow their business and stuff. But things did change a little bit when the Turkish place got in there.
But
Right.
how so? Like, how did
Well,
it
I mean,
change?
I think it introduced, I think it's become more of an open competition now. which I'm kind of like agreeing with you,
Oh, okay, yeah, oh, yeah, okay.
right?
I wasn't sure. where you were going.
But where I
cut him off, he's agreeing with you.
I know, right?
but where I'm stuck a little bit is it just feels to me as if certain commitments and handshakes were made that are kind of being reneged a little bit, and that's outside of what we do here on this. I mean, I might wait. Hold on. I might be okay with taking E out of here, but I'm making a statement.
Carry on, Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to hear from both sides, both pro and con. I'd like the mic to go to the public, and I'd like to hear some arguments on both sides. And I don't want to hear any insults to this committee during the process. I want to hear facts. I want to hear rationale. So, Mayor, open it up to the public. I'm all ears. I'm
Right, and-
objective.
And just to add a little context, and Brendan, I appreciate what you said and how you said it. That's a valid point. The conversation from when we first started talking last year to what we discussed early this year to this evening has evolved.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I probably still am thinking in the context of we have permanent businesses versus transient, and that's not necessarily a great word, but a business that could come and go. And it's entirely possible, by the way, with a place like Oyaz and the cafe, if the cafe would have decided to stay open later, and when the development happens at the Millington train station, and other food stores come in, honestly, I think the competition that you referenced may actually push out the food trucks.
Maybe.
Because it may not be
Maybe.
worth it to them
Yeah.
to come when they have popular restaurants in town, like Oyaz. Many of you were probably there already. We were there. It's outstanding. So, ironically, the very competition you're referring to, I honestly think will push out the food trucks.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it could
Not
very
the other way
well.
around.
Right, it could very well, but in time, right? But right now, we have what we have. Food trucks are it.
And
So
so I appreciate what you said and how you said it. That's well said and certainly worth discussing. The fact that we weren't discussing it in February, I concede the point. It's June. We've had a conversation, and I hear you. I hear members of the public, but understand there are members of the public that have reached out to us that aren't happy, and that's fair too. I'd love to hear from the chamber, but I don't know if the chamber is here this evening, although I don't know that they'd like to jump into the little...
Here, he's here.
Okay, there we go. I don't know if the chamber wants to jump into a food fight. Boom, boom. That was... Okay, maybe that wasn't so funny. So anyway, I think it's worth having a conversation.
Yeah.
And I also agree with you, just because no other town is doing it, doesn't mean we shouldn't, and it doesn't mean that they won't. But all I can say, I'm good at facts. And facts are what I said. Absolutely true. I went down the line of 20 mayors of towns that, like us, Forum Park, Wharton, on and on and on. And none of them allow food trucks, period, outside of special events and parks. I actually think that's a little bit too restrictive. And I understand what Chatham did. I understand what New Providence did. And again, I'm open to any other town. I don't know if Morristown and Parsippany are good reference points, or Hoboken, or Branchburg. We're not those towns. But I'm willing to listen to, an open-minded conversation. What was important to me is I wanted the public to understand how we got here. And I appreciate you pointing out what I described in my memory is accurate. That's all I ask. Open dialogue, open conversation, listen to members of the public. So at this point, I'd like to open up the meeting, and I'm also open to the idea that we carry it, because I'm not particularly happy we have two members of the committee not here tonight. And for something that I think is important, this is important, I'd like to hear from the other two members as well. The floor is yours. I'm even going to put myself on mute for you.
Pamela Ogens, Millington. I do have a question. If you can look at your ordinance at 4-7.3, after point number 7. I wondered if you wanted to add an 8th point with the name of the sponsor. You do mention the sponsor for liability insurance, so perhaps we need to, in the application process, include the name of the sponsor because it sounds like they're the liable party.
What if the sponsor changes?
I think
The application, I would think, has to be updated.
I think the idea was that the sponsor would be the property owner. Now, in the case of special events, it's covered by the other ordinance, so it would not be covered in this ordinance. But
So the sponsor will always be the property
The property
owner?
owner, yes.
Maybe that just needs some clarification when you talk about sponsor. In 4-7.5, until the sponsor maybe / property owner, something like that. I leave that to your discretion. I know I have 3 minutes and I have more to cover.
Please carry on. And by the way, thank you. You, more than anybody in town, keeps us on our toes. You actually read line by line.
I read it, I do my homework. I don't
you
stand up
always
here
have.
unless I know what I'm talking about, which leads me to my next point. I did spend several hours, and I looked through the ordinances and codes of 6 towns. I kind of randomly selected those 6 towns, but I did look at them all. I looked at the towns of Bernard Township, Berkeley Heights, Morristown, Chatham, the borough, and the township.
Which one was that one?
I'm sorry.
What was the second one? Or the last one you mentioned?
The first one was the Township of Bernards,
Berkeley Heights,
Berkeley
Morristown,
Heights, Morristown,
Chatham?
Borough and
Chatham,
Township.
the borough,
okay.
and the township. And then I just randomly took Rockaway because it was convenient. In searching these, I found doing a search under food, doing a search under trucks, doing a search for some of them, they have any references under things like, it was really kind of bizarre, itinerant establishments. I could find in none of these 6 any reference to any distance to any brick and mortar. Mayors share information. I have the ordinances. I couldn't find anything in these 6. So please take note of that. I'd also like to just mention in the master plan, the master plan says, this master plan, this is for Millington Village. This master plan looks to restore the central commercial area of Millington Village as a vibrant, walkable village center where residents and visitors can come to stroll, shop, work, attend cultural and entertainment events, enjoy food and drink, and conduct civic and other business activities. I think to be in sync with our master plan, we need to be welcoming to our food trucks. I think that no one expected Oak Flower, as an example, to be as successful as they are. And I'd like to see that that continue for them.
So, Ms. Ogins, can I ask you a question? Thank you for the research you've done. The towns you mentioned, are those ordinances that are specific to food trucks?
No, nobody seems to have a
That's right.
specific.
Okay,
So I
thank you.
referenced everything. Now,
So-
you could argue that you want to be ahead of the curve,
Well-
that you want to specify that out, but
Please, let's stay on that point for a second. I believe Jack said, and I'm not a lawyer, actually, without the ordinance, and in their cases, they don't have an ordinance, technically, that's not legal, or whatever.
Oh, yeah, they
That's
have
my opinion.
references under things like their health and safety. They have things like their fees. They have it with
It's talking about
somewhere
food trucks,
in.
though?
itinerant
Well,
merchants?
I'll be happy to share my research with you, but I don't, I didn't commit it to memory for sure.
See, our concern is this. What happens if
Mostly
somebody would have
fees.
challenged, and I think that was what Jack was getting at, without this ordinance, and we can talk about the specifics of the ordinance, but without this ordinance, anybody, a resident, you could challenge the food truck being there and be right, and the food truck would have to be removed.
Maybe I didn't make it clear. I'm not questioning the entire ordinance. I'm not telling you to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I am questioning the 100 feet.
I understand
And with the 100 feet, I'm wondering how many hours overlap between the Millington Cafe and the Oak Flower Brewery. How many hours? Well, certainly Oyaz is new, and that's great.
Their hours, I know, are 11 a.m.
They
to,
have
10
extended
p.m.,
hours.
7 days a week.
And
The
who-
cafe, I believe, is 7 or 6 maybe, but I know it's 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not sure of the opening hours. What are the opening hours for Oak Flower?
It's 12 o'clock on Sundays.
12.
But other than that, it's a later opening that I know of.
You know, somebody from Oak Flower can explain what the hours are when they come
So I
up.
don't think we're talking about a huge number
No,
of
we're not.
hours
That-
of
I agree.
overlapping. And I actually would think that Oyaz is more than 100 feet away, but I'm sure that somebody must have measured this accurately to come up with the 100 feet number. I did, in looking at this ordinance, and Jack, you know, a lot of these things are included in our ordinances already.
Yes.
Like traffic is in Chapter 7 under
Right.
traffic, and lighting and is under codes for land use, and signs are under the police regulations, and alcohol beverages.
But not in the context of a
that's
mobile
under-
food
they're all-
establishment.
No, it's spread out in all of our ordinances, so there is certainly more detail in this.
I
But
thought
it
it made
is-
sense. I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
It is elsewhere. A lot of this is addressed elsewhere in our codes and
I
regulations.
just thought it would be helpful to have it all in one place so people can
Yeah,
go check.
I can understand that.
2 points. One is, and I take no position with respect to the 100-foot requirement, but it wouldn't just apply to Oak Flower and the cafe.
Oh, I know.
So, just so other people understand that, it wasn't only
yeah.
that. And with respect to your comment about the insurance, the use of the word sponsor, I agree with you. Maybe if we change sponsor to operator, because sponsor is not used anywhere else in the ordinance.
Operator, to me, sounds like the operator of the food truck.
Yes,
though.
correct.
So the operator of the food truck is responsible for the insurance, for carrying the insurance?
Right. Now, if the property owner wants to provide that, that's between them, but at least we have somebody
I
providing
gotcha.
us with that.
Okay, yeah, that would be good, because that was a little
think
confusing,
that
was
will
the
make it
word
clear.
sponsor.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, do you have any questions for me? No? Thank you.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, as always.
I'm Gary Janakis. I'm the president of the Long Hill Chamber of Commerce, and I want to try to set the record a little bit straight also from what happened, Mr. Pacherza, what you were saying at the beginning of the year. I was contacted by a member of the Township Committee when a food truck was spotted at the liquor store. And I was asked to try to get kind of a sense of what the chamber's reaction to that. And my comment was, I'm not the chamber. I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is any member who's the Chamber of Commerce. You're a member of the Chamber of Commerce. You guys are a member of the Chamber of Commerce. So they're the chamber. So I went out to a couple of the members of the Chamber of Commerce to find out what the Chamber of Commerce thought about food trucks. And it's a diverse opinion. I didn't ask any of the food trucks what they thought about food trucks, but they're also not members of the Chamber of Commerce. So I just wanted to kind of put that in context. I'm not going to be deciding what this ordinance is. That's what you guys are going to do. And I know you've got a lot of opinions kind of being tossed around here. Do I care about the brick and mortar restaurants that are already in town? And I think that's what you're trying to kind of protect with this thing. Do I like competition and fair play? Sure. The food trucks, the food is a competition, a healthy competition for other restaurants in town. But it's an unfair competition in that they have a high visibility at that one location where the other businesses have no visibility when the food truck is there, right? The food truck can pull up to any restaurant and be a competition, but the restaurant can't pull up to wherever a food truck is. I don't know how to solve that, except for when a food truck is at, if a sponsor is sponsoring a food truck to be at their place, whether it's Oak Flower or a private citizen or another restaurant wanting to, have a food truck there. Having the other businesses that would be in competition with that, having a visible presence or their options available to the public that has the option of the food truck would be a great thing to have. So what I'm saying is like a menu of the other restaurants in town available, readily available for the people that are seeing the food truck that's right there. Now, I saw some comments online that, the food truck was there, it was a wings truck. I don't like wings. I went over to the Turkish place. That was easy. It's right there. They see it. But if we have some visual representation of the other restaurants in town, I don't know how you write that into an ordinance, when a sponsor is sponsoring something, that might be a healthy act of making a fair competition. And the other thing that's not fair about the food trucks from a competition standpoint is that they clearly don't have the expense of a local business. So their prices can be the same, but their expenses are completely different. And the whole food truck thing, I mean, I don't know if there's any food trucks here, but there's businesses that sponsor the food trucks here in force. So, I think we should hear from them. And I want to understand if the sponsor is the property owner or the business that wants the food truck there.
Well, that's why I suggested changing it to the operator, because really it's the food truck that needs the insurance and the indemnification. Now, if the property owner wants to pay for it, that's between, the food truck operator and
The property owner or a leasee of the property? A business
well, the
that is
business.
leasing the property.
The business is where the food truck is going to be located.
And are they paying to be a sponsor, or are they just on the
But
application?
we're going to take that term out at Ms. Ogen's recommendation and put operator, so that the food truck has to provide the insurance and the indemnity agreement.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any
Thank you,
questions?
and thank you for attending this evening.
Okay.
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies.
Good evening.
I'll try to get this microphone up. My name's Bill Kaufman, for those of you who don't know me. I moved my business to Long Hill in 1998. 26 years we've been at 1932 Long Hill Road, the subject of many, many appearances before almost every board that this township has to offer, with the exception of the court, fortunately. We're the third owner of that building since 1915. My wife and I built a residence there in 2019, came back before the Board of Adjustments. We've done what we think has been tremendous strides to improve the lower downtown. I should back up and say, when we came here in 1998, that building had been vacant, with the exception of the post office and 3 apartments upstairs, for almost a decade. The bank had owned it since the 1920s, 1930s, bought it from the Coriels, and vacated the building to build their new building next door, the Millington Savings Bank, now Kearney Bank, and did not lease that space on the first floor for many years. In fact, the reason that we didn't rent it earlier, because we were relatively local, was because downtown Millington was so frighteningly desolate to us. We felt like we'd be working, operating a business in the middle of like a ghost town. So we weren't necessarily the ideal business to be in there. We're an architecture, design, and construction firm, but we did fill the walls And we did support local businesses, and many of you know we've done many buildings and projects in town and tried to serve this community alongside some of the other businesses, part of the chamber, et cetera. So I came here with a good understanding of what was going on, and now I have more questions than answers, or more questions than statements. So I just want to start with a couple of clarifications, because there's been a lot of talk about tax-paying businesses, brick-and-mortar businesses. One question I have with respect to when we got started with this, let me back up to our 2019 Board of Adjustment approval. Our property is designed and approved for a fully operational restaurant. I'm not sure if this committee is aware of that. That is a permitted use, and the design of that space and the parking and all of its use was intended for a restaurant. Had it not been for the pandemic, there would be a restaurant there today, and it would be in full operation, and it would be open far more than just a few hours, and it certainly would not be sympathetic to the neighboring hours of restaurants. In fact, with all the research that we did with restaurants and restaurateurs and restaurant owners, including probably the largest restaurant in town, which is the Sterling Hotel, the idea of competition was absolutely paramount to the success of every restaurant. A restaurant can't survive as an island. They all know it. That's why they all build and buy next to each other, and they mixed up Italian with Chinese food, and now we have Turkish food. And so that wasn't happening in downtown Millington. There was no life in downtown Millington for many years. Contrary to what people thought, Kelly and I, my wife, did meet Colin and Leanne, the owners of Oak Flower, and we did believe in their vision. And for us, in the middle of a pandemic, or the end or the closing out of the pandemic, the idea of doing a brewery was a little bit of a scary venture, so we did a lot of research. We were now living in this building ourselves, have residents living above this, so there was a lot of things that we were concerned about. Needless to say, we feel that with that renovation and that addition and that prosperity of that little business has breathed a whole new life into downtown Millington. It's lit up at night. You can walk down the street. We've got people sitting on a terrace. We have, it's almost like a town. It's almost like a town center. I'm not trying to be facetious about it, but give a little credit to where credit's due, right? Nobody was running to the old, dry cleaners and hanging out in front, and the other restaurants have struggled to some extent. So what I find a little disturbing is we hadn't even finished building out that brewery, and the first person to knock on my door was the tax assessor, and hit us hard for a restaurant type atmosphere, because he didn't understand what a brewery was, so he taxed us as a restaurant. So a question I have is, one, the Millington Cafe sits on a New Jersey Transit property, is that correct? Are they not exempt, Mr. Pigeon?
Yes, they are.
So they don't pay taxes?
Huh?
Part of this ordinance.
It's not.
It's not part of this ordinance. This is a public hearing for this ordinance.
It was brought up that that the neighboring brick and mortars were tax-paying entities, and we were taking away from them. So I just want to be clear that our business, our building, is a tax-paying entity, and we have paid dearly. And to make public claims that other businesses are contributing financially to the economic bottom line through taxes, it's just a false claim, that's all.
Well, as I said earlier, this doesn't just involve Oak Flower and the cafe. It's meant to be townwide.
Well, I would agree with that.
The cafe is a unique situation.
I would agree with that, except that were there food trucks prior to this ordinance? I think that we discussed that they were. They showed up, and there was an idea of getting permits. And were there permits issued for these food trucks?
But they've only appeared within the last year that we're talking about.
It was,
so we made them, in order to allow the township committee to come up with a policy, Megan and I required that they have fire inspections and health inspections.
So essentially a permission.
In the interim.
Yeah,
But there was
okay.
no
So this ordinance is being crafted after the fact.
No, it's in response, and
A
as I
response,
said.
yeah. So there were food trucks, and now we want to regulate it, and I think it's, by the way, I'm not here
the
to
intent of
speak
the ordinance
for
is to
or
allow food
against
trucks.
the food trucks. I'm more concerned as a professional architect and someone who does a lot of downtown planning. I'm more concerned with the appearance of spot zoning, because it only really affects this one business and this one building. The way, you know, it's being touted as this blanket idea that it's going to protect all these. I'm not sure that that's exactly what's happening here. I think what's happening is they're saying we have one brick and mortar restaurant that's open for breakfast and lunch, and we're talking a lot about their hours as if it's somehow relevant to a business across the street, which I don't think personally it is. And again, I'm not in the food truck business. I'm not promoting or even necessarily a proponent of the food trucks in an isolated silo. What I'm really concerned about is the idea that this is somehow protecting a single brick and mortar business, but at the expense and peril of one that's really contributing to the community in ways that I don't think any of us ever predicted. I mean, I'm there all the time. Every time I come in and out of there are people walking. About 60% or 70% of the people that our patrons walk. There's baby carriages, there's dogs, there are people sitting outside. I mean, isn't that what we're trying to promote? And so the food trucks add vitality to that. And now we're saying, well, we're not going to allow them on this particular site. We're going to move them, you know, what, down the road 200 feet? That's going to somehow
You only
change.
opposed to paragraph E?
I'm
Is that what you're getting at?
I'm really not opposed or for. I'm just concerned that the idea that we're taking the idea that the chamber said this is a problem. We just heard from the chamber. I don't think the chamber represented it. It's a concern. We're placating a whole entire town ordinance or municipal ordinance to one business, and it's not even
So, Bill,
I mean, I don't want to call out names because it's not really a personal thing for me. I'm concerned that it's just like somebody makes a complaint and
I
then.
was the only one benefiting too, so it's.
Well,
So, Bill, I do want to interject.
It's
one
important to
thing.
me that my bill. You mentioned one more thing, and then I don't
No,
want to.
you can have the mic back.
Yeah, you know, there's talk about, oh, well, you can't have multiple businesses. Jack, you mentioned that. I don't think you meant that because I've got a post office, I had a retail shop, I have a business, I have we're just talking about the brewery. It's just one of my tenants. There's nothing that says I can't have a food truck in my garage. It has nothing to do with the brewery and the state laws. It's convenient for them, I'll grant it, and it helps their business and it helps the community, but these are independent ideas.
I understand.
Okay, so it's not what was said, though. It was said, and the public hears what you guys say, and they take it to heart. Like, oh, you're not allowed to have more than one business.
Bill, I just want to.
As I say, it's a universal ordinance. It's not just for Oak Flower, it's not just for the cafe. It's townwide.
Well, I guess the point is a food truck could just show up with somebody sponsors it appropriately, right across from what did you say, the most popular restaurant in town, Sterling
Yeah,
Hotel.
they can do it next door to the Sterling Hotel.
Yeah, so to that point, Mr. Mayor, like, Tom and Dory have a food truck on their property. New Jersey Transit's property, where are we measuring from? The front door?
Wait, okay.
You know,
I'm not saying I agree. You say I'm not supporting and not supporting, and my response to you is I'm not for or against anything. It was very important for me this evening, and I think it's been clear. I don't think anybody disagrees with it. The first person that tried to accommodate the one brick and mortar business was in fact Oak Flower. The recommendation to us was, I want to be a good neighbor to the cafe. I've discussed it with the proprietors at the cafe, and what we would recommend is we will not have food trucks until they close at 3 p.m. That wasn't our idea.
I understand
It was
that.
presented to
But
us.
to Mr. Lavender's point, that's between the businesses, right? That shouldn't be
Fair enough.
written in
And by the way,
an
can I just-
ordinance.
just
Like,
one
what if they
quote?
decide to open, like, that they don't like each other and they decide to open an hour later just to mess with them, you know?
I like what you said about basically capitalism, right? Competition. I'm a flag-waving
I understand
belligerent
that.
capitalist. To paraphrase Winston Churchill, I cheat a little on it because he was talking about democracy. What is it? Capitalism is the worst form of economics or economies, except all others. I live in Myersville, as you well know, and we have a new restaurant coming in, and I have no doubt that restaurant will lead to more business to the other two restaurants that are right on
For
that
sure.
circle.
For sure.
So I agree with everything you're saying. The challenge we've had for everybody, including the owner of Oak Flower, is trying to figure out what makes the most sense for what I think Ms. Ogens pointed out in other towns is called itinerant. It's not necessarily a nice word. Maybe they could have chosen a different word. We're trying to figure out how that fits into the ecosystem. And frankly, I think Committeeman Ray made a very valid point. I understand that. You know, what is it? What is the saying? When facts change, my opinion changes. Honestly, I'm open-minded. How about that?
And to your credit, I think everything that you have written in, you've got restrictions. You're not 24/7, 7 days a week with an independent little food truck that could be competitive. You're talking about select days of the week, a couple of days a week, select hours, specific fees and inspections and everything else in terms of the public safety. You've got it's just out of nowhere it came this, well, except in that location. In that location, you need someone's permission. And that gives one business owner a little too much power, don't you think?
So basically, if I just cut to the chase with you, you'd like to take out E.
Right.
It just
You'd like to
strikes
take-
me as a little inappropriate.
So
that's all.
let me-
And from a lot of reasons. That's and yes,
Okay,
I
all
think
right.
it's.
So
I
let
think
me
it's not.
let me kind of amplify comments I said before, so I'm a little bit more understandable. I understand the handshake agreement, the understanding, whatever there was between Oak Flower and the other end. I understand that, and I'll also say the whole perspective changed when the Turkish place came in, right? And so therefore, I'm more inclined to say take E out for that reason alone, right? Plus the fact that it's really unenforceable when you think about it, because he raises a good point. Where do you measure it from? The stoop, the curb? What happened if the wheel is turned on the truck? You measure it from the tip of the wheel on the truck. I get it. But we don't want to be in the middle of your food fights. Right? And personally, I resent some of the things that were said.
By me?
No,
Oh,
I'm not
please.
saying by you.
I'm the one at the
saying,
podium.
wait,
I
let
don't
me
think
finish,
I
let me
was-
finish.
I didn't think I was trying not to be offensive
You've
at all
been-
to anyone. I'm just here to try to be the
I like
property
you.
owner that's been
Yeah,
here
yeah,
for
yeah.
30 years.
Nobody here this evening said anything offensive.
Nobody here this evening said anything offensive.
Oh.
But I don't like people taking these fights to social media before they come in here and have a conversation with us, because I think we're very reasonable.
Yeah, this is listen, I don't know what that's all about, but I'm here because it's greatly affecting my brick and mortar business.
I think what
And-
you're hearing is what Gaia likes to say is, don't argue a call in your favor.
All right, well, those are some of my questions. I
So,
appreciate
Bill,
it.
I just a little anecdote between friends here. The funny thing, how we ended up in Long Hill Township, we looked at like 30 homes, and we friends of mine had moved out here earlier, so property prices in St. Chatham, et cetera, were a little bit cheaper, so they were there. When we looked, sticker shock, we couldn't afford.
Right.
So I said, I can't look at any more homes, and I said to my wife, I said, you go find a home. And I think it was a payphone from the Millington Trade Station. She calls me in the rain, and she said, I think I'm in Petticoat Junction. And that's early 90s.
Right.
And so that was what you're describing. We don't have a downtown, right? And we've tried to Main Avenue, but we have flooding towards Main and Valley. This is the first time you're starting to see what could be maybe not a downtown for the whole town, but certainly for Millington. So honestly, I'm very open-minded about the vision for what's going to be there. I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. And
I
how we got
agree
here,
with you.
that's
Let's
all.
keep a good thing going. That's all. I just felt like that one provision was a little too personal for an ordinance.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Good seeing you, by the way.
Hi, good evening. I'm Anna Marie Menza. I live at 1812 Long Hill Road in Millington. I want to thank you for
Good evening.
for having the opportunity to speak tonight. I am in objection to this ordinance. I've been at Millington for over 30 years, and I don't see having food trucks as enhancing our neighborhood. You know, we see food trucks in New York City or Hoboken on the waterfront or in carnivals or special events. You know, food truck 2-3 nights a week is not what Millington or Long Hill Township has been set out to be known for. Even on our township page, we're known for our excellent schools, our great senior center, our great parks and recreation, and our great swamp and our community. And to be walking the streets where the oak flower and the food truck is displayed, it's just not the bucolic place that we want Millington or Long Hill to be known for. We see this on Instagram. We know where Long Hill is now. Well, yes, but do we want to be known for having food trucks? It's not the place where they belong. And to be seeing, children and toddlers, parents walking into a brewery and sitting outside, and now the food truck. I don't see us being responsible to our community and to our youth. I think it can be presented in a much better way, in a much more enhancing way for our growth of what's coming in the future in Millington. But food trucks is not a place for Long Hill Township. And I hope that we can take consideration to the neighbors as well as the, food establishments and, the cafe and all who's been here for so many years. We shouldn't lose sight of how much they've contributed to the well-being. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your thoughtful comments. I know that everybody here, you can be doing other things with your Wednesday evening.
Yes.
And so even though there seems to be a little tension in the room, I do appreciate everybody coming out.
And thank you for having this.
And thank you for
Appreciate it.
your respectful presentation.
No problem.
Hello. I think it's passion rather than tension. But my name is John Houlihan. I live in Sterling, registered Republican. Moved my young family here.
I saw a couple of comments, so good to
Yep.
see you.
First-time caller, long-time listener, let's say. So since we've moved here, it's been really exciting to see the growth of the town. And Oak Flower, I think in particular, has been a bright spot in the community. They've been recognized as one of the best breweries in the region. I think with time, probably one of the best in the state. And I've witnessed something that I never thought I would see happen, which is people take the train to Millington and then get off and go to the brewery from other towns. Who would have thought? Beyond the beer, I think the food trucks have been a welcome addition. So I'm here as a constituent to request that you eliminate Section E of the ordinance. Again, I don't need to keep selling. Sounds like you guys are kind of already considering this. That new restaurant across the street is really good, but it's only one option, not necessarily to everyone's liking. Allowing food trucks without that 100-foot limitation would give people more choice, more options. Somebody called out eating while you're drinking is a good idea, right? Safety. But the ship has already sailed on fairness to brick and mortar. Delivery apps like Uber Eats means that I could get from hundreds of restaurants, dozens of miles away, food delivered right here, right now. So that state of fairness doesn't really exist in the first place. So I think that, Section E would be adding restrictions, but wouldn't also be helping that fairness situation. And again, just because those other towns don't have those restrictions doesn't mean that we should. Long Hill is a unique town. As you pointed out, there's no central business district, right? It's a collection of villages. So we need, something that might work in Madison or Summit or wherever. It's not going to work here because of the unique physical layout of our town. We need creative solutions. So I think that eliminating E will help businesses thrive. It won't cause harm beyond the competition that already exists through those apps. So that's what I submit as my request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Shannon DeJamis. I'm a 9-year resident of Millington. Do we put the address on record? I'm at 12 Elliott Road in Millington, New Jersey. Very proud to be here for 9 years. I am not a business owner. I'm a mom. I'm a very happy resident of the town. I have 4 children. But I came from Hudson County and moving
What
here
town?
from Jersey City. Very proud from
There you
Jersey
go.
City.
Tell by the
and
accent.
I'm sorry?
Tell by the accent, because I'm from Bayonne.
I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, so I'm surprised you'd say I have a Jersey City accent. But
we interrupt. Continue.
no, that's fine. When my husband and I moved here, we loved the town, but I think getting used to having all of these restaurants at our fingertips when we were in Jersey City and moving here was a huge culture shock. There was a lot we loved about Jersey City, and there's a lot we love about Long Hill Township, and I have absolutely no regrets about moving here. I'm very, very happy here. But I want to see, as a resident, I want to see more restaurants, and I don't really care what shape or form that they take. I want more places to call when I'm rushing my kids from school to a baseball game, and whether it's a food truck or somewhere else, I don't really care. But there were a couple of points I did want to make, just in response to a few things. One of the things that's come up tonight, and it just seems that the town council doesn't want to bring up what was shared on social media today, and I did not. I read a lot of what was shared on social media today. I did not respond. That's not my habit. But Mr. Pacerci, I believe you did suggest that one of the reasons that we should consider brick and mortar and give them perhaps a little bit more credence is because their property tax.
Well, the owners of the building, like Mr. Kaufman.
Right. But that, that they're paying property taxes, and it sounds to me, from if I heard everything correctly, that the Millington Station Cafe is actually a tax-exempt entity, so they're not actually paying property taxes that contribute to our town. Is that correct?
Can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I answer that
Sure.
question? It's somewhat unique, and I don't know if there are any other structures in town, but the Millington, whoever operates the Millington Cafe, we rent it to them, and I don't know, can you explain the exact way this works?
That would actually be great. I would welcome that.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, just to preface my remarks, I mean, the ordinance is meant to apply not just to the Millington Cafe and Oak Flower. So
I understand.
But the train station is owned by New Jersey Transit. We tried to buy all 3 train stations, and New Jersey Transit will never agree to that. So we lease it from New Jersey Transit, and under the terms of the lease, we have the right to sublet it to another use, which we've done. At the current time, our lease expired years ago. So we're in the process, and so we're a month-to-month tenant, and the subtenant, the cafe, is a month-to-month subtenant. But we're in the process now, we've reached out to New Jersey Transit. We met with them 2 months ago or more, Randy.
About 2 months ago.
And explained our situation to them. They promised to get us a new lease for our consideration within a week. Weeks have gone by. I've emailed them several times. The last response I got was about 3 weeks ago. I followed up since then, and they said it was under review by their council. We still have nothing. Until we get that lease from New Jersey Transit, we can't go out to bid again for a subtenant. As soon as we have a lease with New Jersey Transit, we will go out again to bid. So the current subtenants may, in fact, be successful and remain there, but it will be a public bidding process, and it will go to the highest bidder for uses specified in this, in the bid documents. So it's not just, we don't know who the subtenant's going to be 6 months from now.
But if I understand that correctly, that also means that the tenant could change, and there may not be a tenant in there that closes at 3 p.m. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that limitation in provision E is actually quite limiting because those operating hours might in fact change.
That's correct.
Okay.
I'll give you something else, which honestly I didn't know this until relatively recently. Jack, can you explain what the somewhat unique law is regarding alcohol at train stations.
Yeah, there's a provision in the state liquor laws that allows for a concessionaire's permit in state or other governmental-owned buildings, which is the equivalent of a liquor license. I think the annual fee is $2,000, which compared to a regular liquor license, which it could cost $500,000 or whatever when you purchase. So that whoever the subtenant is will be eligible to apply for a concessionaire's permit, which would allow them essentially to have a liquor license. So
that's to suggest that there might actually be another open tenant, another business.
That's correct.
Which would bring more people into the community, which would be open later in the evening, which would give me options when I'm coming back on the train, which all sounds like a good thing, correct?
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay. And then one of the other concerns that I have is that because there's this limitation about hours already, and hours the business is already open, it really suggests that there's a first in time, first in right sort of approach to these businesses, which is really stifling to competition. And as a resident, again, I want there to be more restaurants. I want there to be more businesses. I mean, do you all see that as the limitation that I see it as a resident? It's a first in time, first in right sort of approach.
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean?
Well, if I understood that section correctly, that it's the opening, a food truck or a mobile establishment can only be open, I don't have the text in front of me, that within 100 feet of when there's another restaurant another restaurant during their opening hours, right? You see what I'm saying? So it's all dictated by the business that's already there.
Or it could be a new business.
Yeah, here's my response.
But
to that.
if they leave it in.
We didn't have anything to work with to point, as Brendan pointed out. Just because somebody else is doing something doesn't mean you have. And so what we were, what is that, without a net or however it is. So we were trying to figure out. And as I said, we came to that. It is true, it's limiting the way it's written, but we came to that because it was brought to us. It wasn't our idea. So, again, to Committeeman Ray's point, I'm willing to evolve in my thinking. We were just trying to be fair to everybody.
No. I understand that, but I think legislating according to a private agreement between two business owners is a little odd. I mean, the business owners can still come to, a private agreement, but legislating it just seems a little bit odd to me. And I want to be respectful of time.
So just to kind of, if I could summarize,
Yeah.
you'd like to take E out.
Absolutely, I want to take E out, but I also want to call out that Oak Flower is a women-owned business, and this just seems. This just seems like really unnecessary hassle and limitation to a women-owned business, and I would imagine that a town council of 5 men might want to be a little bit sensitive to being, creating limitations to a women-owned business.
That was the intent, but
I'm not suggesting that was an intent. I'm suggesting that you should probably think about it a little bit because I think your constituents are probably thinking about that. But I'll close with this. I mean, as a resident, I think people want to see more. I've talked to a lot of people that are busy parents. They just want to have more options. They want to have more options to get something quick. And frankly, I want a lobster roll with my rosé seltzer. So I hope you'll consider that. Thank you.
was the applause for the lobster roll or the rosé seltzer? It wasn't clear to me.
Good evening. Hi,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Pasher. It's good to see you, Mr. Ray. It's been a long time since I've been here. I am Christina Melampione, and I live in Sterling on Railroad Avenue. And I am here tonight as a character resident, if you will. Oak Flower has been a wonderful establishment for me and my family personally. I do live down the block from the Sterling Hotel. I can hit it. I listen to the bands from we go there all the time. I'm a mom. Last time I was here, I was a mom to 1. I'm a mom to 3 now. And thank you. And Oak Flower has presented opportunities for me as a parent in capacities that other establishments haven't. My kids eat everything on the hotel menu. We're there all the time. It's nice to have variety. So the food trucks for us are a big pull. I want to also mention, personally, I don't drink beer. I don't go there for that. I go there for the community. I go there for an opportunity to move my body in a meaningful way when they host things like yoga events and Pilates, which are also led by people who live in this town, and it allows them an opportunity to use their expertise to help make our community better. My mental health has improved since attending these events. I found camaraderie in the families that own Oak Flower. The two women have guided me through my postpartum phase. They were pregnant with me. They helped me heal my body, and they have been outstanding friends. But to the point of this, Mr. Lavender, I don't like E. I think that we keep going back to the new establishment of Oyez, but it was a restaurant prior to that, was it not? It was a Chinese restaurant, right? Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
The hours were a little bit different, though, weren't they?
Oh, undeniably, I'm sure. I love
Weren't
that
open till 11.
They weren't. I don't believe so. 10.
10? I don't think. Well, I'm not going to comment.
No, okay.
They open at 11, they close at 10.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes, we're talking.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So the building, the use of the building in question there as well. And again, I understand that this is not specific to Oak Flower. We're talking about the community in Long Hill as a whole. I think that it has been a wonderful institution for so many different things. They've given back to the Long Hill Education Foundation, which I've worked with. I know that they give back to the Raptor Trust. Oh, in their first year and a half, we're like, you're barely out of the red, right? Like, they're doing so many amazing things for this community. And I know that some people feel children in these environments, but my kids go here and they see their friends. They have opportunities to play and communicate and be themselves outside of school and things like that. So Oak Flower has been so many things to the community in such a short amount of time. And specifically, the food trucks again. I'm a tired mom of 3. Some nights I don't want to cook. Some nights my kids do not want Tom's lasagna. You know, so we need that. I cook. I'm Italian, I cook. But I love that the variety and the options, and I thank you for your time. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. And I appreciate seeing you all and allowing us to speak tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
For attending.
Might be the last one on this, I'm not sure. Leanne Sheehan, for those that don't know me, 6 Iron Drive, Millington. My family and I have been a resident for the last 10 years. Similar to Mrs. DeJamos, we moved from a well-populated area of Long Island, super used to a lot of food choices. One of the things that we loved about Long Hill was more of the family nature, more quiet, a little bit more subdued, but the thing we deeply regretted living here is the lack of food choice, that lack of hours, the lack of camaraderie around food. I love Oak Flower, I love Millington Station Cafe. I second what pretty much everyone else has said. But what I wanted to bring up is the food trucks in the area in Millington specifically has given an outlet to a lot of our middle school and high school age kids. Kids who can't drive yet, kids that can ride their bikes, kids that aren't not necessarily allowed to cross valley or have a small perimeter that their moms like me allow them to go. So after school, or early in the evening, they'll ride their bikes, they'll grab a slice of pizza, they'll hang out, they'll clean up, they'll come home very happy. And so I don't want to lose that, not that the rest of this wasn't important, because I agree, and like everyone else, I would like to request E be removed. But I don't want to lose sight of a place that kids can go and get an additional food option that is not in downtown Sterling or having them ride all the way down Valley. So I think food trucks give those options to other kids as well, in addition to us parents. So I didn't want to leave them out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see anybody else, Mr. Pasurcio. Oh, wait.
No, here we
No,
go.
we have one more.
You don't have to run.
And guy we also have online.
Oh, that's right. No, I won't forget that.
Okay.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Hillary Tate, and I am a resident of Millington, 1829 Long Hill Road.
Hi.
I may have previously introduced myself as Hillary Tate, living in a very small town in next to Basking Ridge, because that's how I came to find this place. And yeah, First of all, thank you for the ordinance. Thank you for coming up with a way to organize the food trucks. I do appreciate that you don't want loud music. I appreciate that you don't want blinking lights because I live down the street from there. And well, my neighbor's not here anymore, but I share a similar feeling to her that I don't want to have a glitzy glam downtown. I moved here because I like that it's quiet, and it's a really lovely place to bring up a family. We do spend a lot of time at Oak Flower. I am a big fan of choo-choo pancakes and the sausage McSpiro as well, and I'm looking for my favorite at Oyez. It's not an or for me, it's an and I welcome the opportunity to have something else downtown. I will continue, I promise, to watch the trains at the Millington Cafe, and I will look for my new favorite at Oyez. I will enjoy my beer at Oak Flower, and now when I get to tell people where I live, I can tell them that I live in a small town next to Basking Ridge that has a cute cafe for breakfast. It has a great Turkish restaurant for takeout. It might still have food trucks, and I am so super duper proud to say that I live up the street from Oak Flower. Thank you.
Thank you.
Time to go online.
Anybody else here this evening who would like to speak? Absolutely.
Colin McDonough. Correction, thank you, Shannon, for pointing it out. I'm not the owner of Oak Flower. The lovely redheaded lady over there is the owner of Oak Flower, so everyone pointing at me, it's not me. She is the one who deserves the credit. It was a lovely women-owned business. Two lovely ladies over there. I had a whole bunch of things to say. I'm not going to say them. We'll all be cool here. I just want to say that I am deeply, deeply touched by all of the support we've had online from everybody who actually spent their night coming out here and sitting this long to hear everything and to speak up in support of the little brewery that we decided to open here in Millington, that we just happened to luck into some fantastic landlords, which I don't know how many people can say that. We did. And we did happen to create I will say yes, the number 6 highest rated brewery in the state, nationally recognized. Toot toot, yeah. Everyone who knows me knows I will, throughout the week, I put my head down, I make beer. I am a janitor for most of the week. I'm wet, I'm cleaning tanks, I'm sanitizing things. I am, again, making some of the goddamn best beer in the state. And I often miss, a lot of what goes on over the weekend when we're actually open. So to hear from everybody, to hear the amazing stories and how much community and camaraderie they have found there is beautiful and is all I ever really wanted out of Oak Flower. And I'm just happy to see it come together. So if we could get rid of Section E, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here this evening who in person that would like to speak? If not, Megan, online.
Dion would like to speak.
Dion?
Oh.
Hands down?
Dion just left
Bermucci?
Zoom. Tom Grosskopf would like to speak.
Good evening, Tom, you there? Tom, you may be on
Hello.
mute.
Well, I am unmuted now.
There you go.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me this evening. And kudos to Oak Flower for all of the attendees they have there tonight and for the obviously great business they have going. Good business practice brings out good people. And that's wonderful. Mr. Mayor, I would like to hearken back to what you said to start this off, is that this ordinance was the attempt of the Township Committee to open up an avenue for Oak Flower and for the rest of our township to have food trucks available in somewhat of a regulated manner. Perhaps Section E needs to go. I'm not going to opine on that. I can't tell you what 100 feet from the front door or from the side of the building will really do to its business. My concern here might be, though, how many food trucks is enough? And what if I've heard people say that they like the opportunity to, rather than cook their own food, get food from a food truck, which seems a little odd to me, but maybe the times have passed me by. But how many food trucks is enough? What if the selection is not up to people's culinary palate for the evening? Maybe it's Italian food in the food truck for the night, and they were looking for Chinese. I don't think this ordinance is going to placate everybody's wishes for what they would like to see. Case in point, back in New York City, when I lived there, Mr. Softy did used to come by until they invoked an ordinance saying that they can't just sit there and ring that damn bell the whole time. Come on, we all know the tune. So maybe this ordinance is looking for a little relaxation on the 100-foot limit, but perhaps it should not be, so that it's open to all comers at all times and we have no restriction on it at all. I heard earlier that you were going to possibly table this and bring it back to a discussion when you might have a full township committee. I think that's probably your best bet at this point.
See, the only thing I would say to that, to Mr. Kaufman's comments earlier, and I think to Mr. Pigeon's comments as well, we can't spot zone, and that would be the concern.
But this is not a zoning ordinance.
Right, fair enough.
It's a police power ordinance.
Yeah, fair.
And for that reason, too, that no food truck will be a non-conforming use, which will be permitted to continue even if the ordinance is changed. So you can always amend this ordinance unlike a zoning ordinance and make changes to it. No
Fair enough.
vested rights.
Fair enough. I'm sorry, Tom, I interrupted you there.
No, that's quite all right. I think what might be being lost on the people who have a vested opinion about expanding the food truck parking, whatever you want to call it, is that you're not their enemy. There's no enemies here. We're all townspeople, and we're all trying to get what serves us all the best. So I read some ugly things the last couple of days, and they were unfounded, and I think I will echo the deputy mayor in saying that it was some things were really disgusting. So you don't need that, and it's not fair.
I appreciate you saying that, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you all for what you do. Much appreciated. And so everybody else knows out there, this is an unpaid position these people are putting themselves through. They don't need the slings and the arrows. Anyway, I've said enough.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Anybody else online?
Anybody else on Zoom would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you, Megan.
So, Guy,
Yes, sir.
can I move us along here? I'd like to make a motion that we strike the word sponsor in 475 and replace it with operator. And in the section 474, we remove entirely section E. I'd like to make a motion that we do that and pass the ordinance tonight.
I think we have to.
No, I think you can, actually. I hate to disagree with you, Megan. I don't want to get in trouble. But I do think...
You already
I
are.
think we should amend it and carry it, because when we added this, we amended it and carried it to a following meeting. So now if we're going to...
But we're taking it out. I honestly think if you want to, and it's up to you all.
I mean,
I don't want to talk about this
But
for
you
the
could
next
adopt-
3 months.
I
I
think you
really
could
don't.
adopt it.
We've been
Yeah.
talking about this since January.
I'll follow legal counsel,
Yeah,
so if
I-
you want to,
that's always a good thing. that's a good
I
rule to
honestly
live
think
by.
that, especially because we've taken it out, put it back in, that you could remove it tonight, and certainly the other change, sponsor to operator.
We have a quorum, we have the right
You have
to
a
do it.
quorum.
Let's
You-
get
you
this
need-
done
you
and
need
move on
three-
to other business.
You need
And
3
Mr.
affirmative votes,
Yeah.
and you can pass it, but first, you need to do, second the motion.
You need
vote
3
on the motion
affirmative?
to pass the ordinance.
I made the motion.
With those
Hold on a
amendments,
second, I want to make sure I
The
understand the ground rules here, so to speak.
Well, first, on the motion, that can pass on a majority of the quorum of 3
the motion to amend.
to amend.
Right.
So we need a second for the motion to amend, as Mr. Lavender, our Deputy Mayor Lavender.
Okay, I want to be clear why I'm going to say what I'm about to say. My preference for me is to abstain, not because I object to the motion. I think it would be relevant to have the other 2 members of the Township Committee here to hear this. I've heard and I've listened, and I found the comments compelling. And I especially thank Committeeman Ray, who brought everything up.
yeah. No, thank you.
But it can't pass 2.
In order to pass an ordinance, you need 3 affirmative votes, regardless of how many of you are here. You can introduce an ordinance with 2 to 1.
I would strongly recommend that we move forward on this. It's hard to get a quorum in the summer. We're going to have 1 meeting in July and 1 meeting in August.
And I would add, correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, if it needs to be revisited,
We
it can be
change
changed at any time.
Right.
In fact, I'm sure at some point in time, we're going to find some things we need to
Right.
amend. It's true of any ordinance.
So there's a motion on the floor from Deputy Mayor Lavender to amend it. Is there a second for that?
With those amendments, this is something I can vote for, so I second it. I second the amendment.
Now, we need to vote on the motion.
The motion needs
To
all
amend.
3?
To amend.
No, to amend.
To
No,
amend.
The motion can pass 2 to 1.
2 to 1, okay, or even with an abstention.
So roll call vote.
But the ordinance has to have 3 affirmative.
You can do
And
a
all-
voice vote on the amendment.
All in favor?
I would abstain from the amendment vote. I want to be clear, I'm not holding up the vote this evening. Is that
Okay.
correct, Jack?
Correct.
All right.
So the ordinance has been amended, and in my
With
opinion.
the 2 changes,
With the-
the sponsor and striking E.
Striking paragraph
Okay.
E
And I'll make a motion to pass it.
Okay?
on
Second.
final reading as amended.
On final reading is amended, yep. Passing, second.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
That was painful, wasn't it?
I'd like to point out, this is how democracy works. We started in one place and we ended in another. So, thank you. I sincerely thank you for arriving here tonight.
What's next on the dance card?
Oh, geez, I forgot about that. Oh, by the way, you're not allowed to leave. You have to listen to the rest of this. Where are we?
Ordinance-
Consent? Where are we? Oh,
54024.
540-24.
Oh, geez, I thought we already did that. All right, 540-24, second reading adoption. I'm going to read that one because I don't even remember what this one was. That adopted now I remember, redevelopment plan, repealing resolution 22-291, approve the redevelopment agreement and repealing, oh my goodness, ordinance 512-23 that approved the pilot for 10, you know what? What this is we're repealing something that was already approved, and for these reasons we've discussed. Jack, if you want to give a brief overview.
That's right. We had a redevelopment agreement and a pilot agreement with contract purchasers of the car wash for construction of a assisted living facility. That deal has fallen apart. They're no longer the contract purchasers. So what this ordinance does is repeals both the redevelopment plan as well as the pilot agreement.
Thank you. Any members of the, any comments from the Township Committee members? Seeing none, Since this is second reading, I'd like to open it up to members of who are here tonight. This is very specific to this ordinance. Seeing none, Megan, home.
If anybody on Zoom would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
All right, looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Ray.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender.
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia.
Yes. Item number 6, consent agenda. Any that members of the committee would like to pull or abstain from? Seeing none?
This is one that I can actually vote on without any.
I know you were shocked. You went, what? Wait.
Yeah, which one's going to pull?
All right, so then how about this, Brendan? Why don't you make the motion for approval?
I'll certainly do that. A motion to approve consent agenda resolutions 24178 to 24187. Thank you, Guy.
You're welcome.
Second.
You haven't been able to say that.
Second.
Committeeman Ray.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender.
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia.
Yes. Okay. Committee reports. You're going to go last, Scott.
Thank
Brendan,
you.
you're good?
Yeah, I think I can give some updates on fire.
There you go.
Millington ladder came back to the firehouse on Thursday of last week, so it's back where it belongs, and repairs have been made, and we're hoping to get it into service as soon as we've got training, which is coming up in the middle of July. And all the equipment is purchased and ready to be on it. So we're hoping to get it in place within the next couple of months in service. There's one other report I have related to fire. Millington and Stirling fire companies are extremely proud of two of their members, two of the Tom Vetter from Millington and Frank Liberato from Stirling, who spent the last 4 months a total of 266 man hours each at the Somerset Fire Academy, and they attained the Firefighter 1 certification. So we're great congratulations to Tom and Frank for doing that. And I think from everything that was from the reports from the academy were that they were role models for the rest of the younger members of the class. So that's my report.
Thank you, Brendan. Deputy Mayor Lavender, and remember the exuberance that Committeeman Veleza gives the rec report.
For the planning board update?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going into rec.
Yeah, no, first the planning board. So they met yesterday. Brendan, the thing with the extension on the firehouse was passed.
Yep.
So, hopefully that whole process keeps moving forward. I don't know if you have to go to the zoning board or
No,
for variances or anything, but just that was good. And they continue to work through ordinance changes that they'll be circulating up to us eventually. I think yesterday there was a long discussion about sheds.
Sheds, yep.
And also, too, they're talking about bylaws and developing a set of those that'll hopefully surface themselves on the website, such as is in the zoning board's fashion. All right. So now, rec.
No pressure.
Vic Verleza is not here tonight, so I'm going to give the update. First, summer has started. Parks and Recreation kicked off summer with a performance by Parrot Beach, a Jimmy Buffett tribute band who played at Sterling Lake Friday night. The Sterling Fountain was on hand with Rockin' Rebel Sundays for our dog days of summer. I can't do this like Vic. Such a great way to cool off. Despite the heat, our pickleballers are continuing to play on. Reservations can be made for free. That's reservations. You reserve the pickleball court for free by using Community Pass. It's open to Long Hill residents. Swim lessons at Sterling Lake. You notice I didn't say dink responsibly. I refused to say that.
But you just did.
I did. Swim lessons at Sterling Lake have started. The response has been great, and there's plenty of time to register on Community Pass. Swim lessons will continue through the summer. Number 4, our summer rec camp kicked off. There will be 6 weeks of programming. It started this Monday, the 24th. Campers are enjoying a week of circus-themed activities this week. That's circuses. I guess that's with clowns. On Tuesday...
I'm here to entertain you?
Yeah, exactly. Rizzo's Reptile... On Tuesday, Rizzo's Reptiles and Furry Friends came to visit our campers. Campers got to meet a ferret, a toad, a chinchilla, and lots more. A ferret.
You're fired.
Next, go to slide 5. Join us for our Free Dog Days of Summer concert, Thursday, July 11th, 7 p.m., Cantor Park. We'll welcome back Lost in Place, a classic rock band. Pack a picnic dinner, bring the family, and have your lawn chairs and blankets. Great for the whole family. Slide 6. Don't forget to save the date for National Night Out. That's National Night Out, Tuesday, August 6th at Cantor Park. That's a big deal, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
6 p.m. to 9 p.m., demonstrations by our police department, first responders, and Long Hill CERT. Long Hill Chamber of Commerce businesses will join us. There'll be a band, 4 Flight Rock. Long Hill Library will present a children's movie. There'll be a bounce house, games, and much more. And thank you very much to our sponsor, the Watchung Hills Regional Municipal Alliance, for making this a great family night out. And that's all I have for rec.
Thank you,
That
Scott.
and ferrets.
Ferrets. All right. I don't know why ferrets. Why were ferrets funny?
I couldn't tell you.
Vic's job is secure.
Permanently.
I'm allergic to ferrets.
All right. Okay. All right. So the one update I want to make: the first aid squad's in the middle of their 2024 annual fund drive. Everyone knows this is 100% volunteer, much like our fire companies. They do an unbelievable job. I've said these numbers before. They average 2 a day. The last week and a half, I know we see the updates as they're coming in. They have been so busy, 3-4 calls a day. So if you're able to, please remember to contribute to the first aid squad. Someday you will need them. We all have. I have, and I am thankful for the job they do. All right. Randy.
Okay, I first have a Public Works monthly report for June. 13 tons of asphalt was used to fix potholes and blacktop curbing. The Public Works did 3 full days of styrofoam processing. They did 2 tree removals, street sweeping throughout, and catch basin repair throughout the township. They planted flowers on Main Avenue. They did landscaping and mulching at Town Hall. They did work over at police headquarters for the new generator, which I'll bring up in a minute, and did all the township-owned properties throughout the town, maintenance, weed whacking, cutting the grass, and maintaining all those properties. We have 2 active ongoing capital projects that we're working with that's taken a while to get obviously, not obviously, but the materials and working through the various things. The one is generator at police headquarters, which took a long while, I believe about 1.5 years to get the generator itself. So proud to say this week we did the gas line. That was approved, and we're waiting for a final inspection from the building department. We are also working with getting the electronic sign, information sign out front of the building here at Town Hall. That should be starting next month. The contractor had to provide some information to the building department. That was provided, and so we should be starting that next month, and hopefully by the end of July, that project will be completed.
That's great, Randy.
That's it.
All right. No discussion items, old and new. I just have a couple.
I have
Yes.
one discussion item,
Off you go.
very quick. Jack, last time around, we did a first reading of an ordinance with regard to cleaning up permits when a real estate sale was going to happen.
Yes.
Question came up. Sometimes as parties are getting to the last days of a closing, sometimes things come up at the last minute, like maybe a radon test fails.
Right.
And they've got to get someone to come in and fix it and then get inspections done in order to hit a closing date. Is there a mechanism, or is it possible, and maybe this is a question for Randy, to have an expedited process with inspections, even if it were for a premium fee for extraordinary circumstances?
I think we'd have to ask the construction official.
So it'd be, refer that to the construction
Okay,
department.
the answer to that is yes. I've actually seen that in these type of ordinances where you can expedite it.
Right.
However, there will be times where even an expedited inspection is not good. It just won't meet the deadlines and everything else. Other things that have come up is, I don't know how often it happens in Long Hill, but in other towns, I buy a property as is, could be half built. They can't close out inspection permits. So I've been working on language with the construction official on creating a waiver where the seller and the purchaser
Good
would
idea.
have to sign it, and the permits would then sign over to a new owner. They would have to pay a fee, and everybody would know what that fee is. So this will be a complement, if you will, to that ordinance.
It's a good idea.
And Jeff and I are working to see if we need to change the language a little bit to allow for that waiver and so forth. But these are things after we introduced it that we started talking amongst at a department head meeting actually, and coming up with some of these things that and in fact Jeff admitted, and Warren, they didn't think of.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to deal with it.
Nor did Burnersville or any other town that I saw.
Right. So
it's a great idea.
At least we have the advantage of Jeff being in Warren
Yes.
and here. So he's working through those scenarios in Warren. So we're going to try and have this
Great idea.
all done. So
Thanks.
Good, thank you.
Is that it, Scott? Okay.
We also had the holiday swap? or
Yeah,
what?
that's exactly what I was just about to bring up. So, Randy, I think what was proposed and unanimously by some of the municipal workers here in town would be to swap Columbus Day. They will work on Columbus Day. And, am I correct?
correct.
And they would be off on July 5th. And I think, Randy, you expressed the idea that that doesn't affect, if anything, probably more efficient because Columbus Day is a full week, and here you've got...
Actually, it'll probably be more efficient because I'm finding out more and more businesses are closed on July 5th, and nobody wants to come to do municipal business when they're enjoying a holiday weekend. It would probably serve the public better to have us open a full day on that Columbus holiday, which is not a common holiday for the general public. I know my company is given off on July 5th, so their offices are closed. And I think a lot of businesses are closing on the July 5th for the extended weekend. So I think it would be advantageous for the employees. These are non-union employees, just to be
Right, because
specific.
union employees have contracts,
Union
right?
employees
Right.
do have contracts. If that's the case, I'd ask the committee to take a roll.
Just a
not
motion.
roll, just a
Yeah, just
motion.
approve it by motion.
I'm good with that.
Somebody needs-
Scott, you fine?
Yeah,
fine.
I'm good with it.
We don't need a motion, right?
Yeah,
That's
move in second, so we have a record.
So somebody move it. I think Brendan moved it.
Second.
Scott seconded it. Megan, take a roll call, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Voice votes plenty.
Well done. You did that well. One other thing, and I didn't know how else to bring it up, but a resident reached out to me, and actually I think the resident made a very valid point. I guess we changed something in the ordinance relatively recently for property owners where detention basins are there. They are required, I believe, to maintain them and.
Which is because of changes in stormwater regulations. So it was not a local decision. It was implemented.
That wasn't the complaint. You know, they understand that, the resident that brought it to my attention. The concern was, and it's kind of nickel and dime, to maintain a detention basin takes time, oftentimes money, et cetera, and residents that have lived in town for a long time have been doing it for a long time, even without that regulation change. Sure. But, and I forgot how this got into the ordinance, we sent out $50 permit fees. And that seems not fair. I would recommend we remove the permit fee. I mean, I know it's nominal, but.
That was the purpose of the permit fee.
And keep in mind, detention basins benefit everybody in that area.
Was it to cover the cost of inspection?
Cover the costs of administration and follow-up, and necessary if we need to go inspect the maintenance.
And how many of these basins are there in town?
How many letters?
17?
We sent 17 letters. They went out last week. We've already gotten 3 back, which was very surprising to township engineer.
So it's 17 times $50, which is $850.
Now, not to say, we're not saying all 17 qualify as the state definition of detention basin. So if a person doesn't feel that they have a private system, if you will, they should contact our engineer, and we will take a closer look at those specific.
All right, I'm going to cut to the chase. I think it's nominal. I think the residents that are doing this cleanup and maintenance on these detention basins are doing a service for the neighborhoods that they live in. If I had received one of these fees, I would
Be
object.
questioning it.
Yeah, I would recommend we remove it.
You have to do it by ordinance. It's in the ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Do you agree, Brendan?
Yep, I think that's good.
Yep.
And,
So we'll
you
put
know,
that on the agenda for next time.
Sometimes, again, democracy in action. Resident reached out, didn't care about the $50, cared about the.
What do we do about the ones that are,
Can we fund them?
So 2 of them that came back didn't actually have the $50 check. There was only one, and I actually got it today, and I didn't.
What did the other 2 have?
They send via email, so they just never sent the fee. So
Okay.
we said we would reach out next week if we never received checks in the mail, but it looks like we probably won't have to.
Look, if they paid and we cashed it,
You can
we
reimburse them.
refund it. That's not a problem.
All right, yet another example of this committee listening to reasonable requests. And we did all right, so now announcements. You didn't give me, do we have any announcements?
National Night Out?
National Night Out?
hey, we just did National
Do it
Night Out.
again, please, if you don't mind. That one you did a good job on.
I know. There's no ferrets there, that's why. Tuesday, August 6th, Cantor Park, 6 to 9 p.m. Don't forget, save the date, National Night Out. There'll be demonstrations from the police department, first responders, Long Hill CERT, Long Hill Chamber of Commerce will join us. 4-Flight Rock will be there to perform. Long Hill Library will present a children's movie. There'll be a bounce house, games, and more. Thank you so much to our sponsor, the Watchung Hills Regional Municipal Alliance, for making this a great night out. You can tell it's late in the evening.
That's from a Paul Simon song, isn't it? Late in the evening. Brendan, you have anything?
Nothing for me, no.
Oktoberfest, that's coming up when? In September? Oh, I think it's September, right?
September, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't think we have anything. We could say, everybody have a wonderful July 4th, especially the municipal employees that swapped their Columbus Day for July 5th. Now the meeting is open to the public on any issue, not just Oak Flower.
One Small question.
Uh-oh.
Thank you again. Do I want to reintroduce Bill Kaufman, 1932 Long Hill Road. Question for the committee, and maybe you have an answer or you can just bracket an answer. Can we get a status on the sewer moratorium
Absolutely.
Progress?
That I could probably
Yes,
do
absolutely.
by memory. So as you know, the referendum passed the sale, bless you, some time back, but the actual sale itself, with all the specs that go into it, closed on in October of 2020. Right, that's right. Brendan, thank you. So, let's get to your question, the sewer moratorium. They are required, the new owner, New Jersey American Water, to complete all upgrades that are necessary, well, actually, everything in the contract by October 2025. I think there are some things that may bleed a little bit into a longer term. For example, they're required to go from 88% to 95% of the township must be sewered. There are challenges there, permits, et cetera, et cetera. But what's not negotiable is the lifting of the sewer ban. By October 2025, they have to have done the upgrades that are necessary to lift the sewer ban and add capacity for what are our affordable housing obligations. And we talked about one of them this evening, which is over at the Millington train station.
Great, thank
Did
you.
I answer your question?
You did. There was two parts to it, but I didn't necessarily wasn't concerned about the expansion, but the capacity in the sewer service area. I didn't have the date. It seemed like
October 25.
there might be. There were some questions that there's nothing's gone before the planning board yet. There's been no permits filed, and they haven't started yet in the
Well,
process.
Jack, can you speak to that? I mean, there's been work behind the scenes on this.
Yeah, they
Because
added-
we have to cooperate with the DEP and.
Yeah, no, it's fine. There's no public record of anything, and,
Yeah,
we
I
know
don't-
how long things take to get approved and processed and construction to get going, and it's probably a fairly big lift. Otherwise, we would have done it 20 years ago.
They did add a building, I know.
Yeah, and I was just in a recent meeting with New Jersey American Water and the county sewer management plan. The New Jersey American Water is under capacity. The ban that we have is a voluntary ban. It was not a ban issued by DEP. So.
It wasn't that voluntary, though.
Well,
They called it a voluntary.
they called it a voluntary ban. So if you're in the sewer service area and and you want to move forward, you can contact New Jersey American Water. They will evaluate each of the projects. You may need what's that, a TWA,
Yes.
a permit for specific projects. But if you're within the sewer service area, they have done a lot of work with what's called I&I, sleeving the sewer lines, and they just got the DEP approval for, let's say, environmentally sensitive areas to go in and sewer the sewer lines where they're getting a lot of I&I. So they feel that they might not even have to do an actual expansion at the sewer plant, that this work would be enough for them to get where they need to be for the projects that are on the books.
And keep in mind, they're a business.
Yeah.
They paid an awful lot of money. Well, they paid a lot of money, and they've put in probably double. We have the numbers, but I don't want to say it and because I don't remember exactly what it is. They've already spent double what they had projected. My point is, this is only valuable to them if they add customers. So they're not going to delay. This isn't an example of where delaying is beneficial to them. Delay hurts them.
Right. Well, there are, to Mr. Barr's point, there are some exceptions within the state guidelines
Yes.
for sewer bans. Unfortunately, those exceptions don't apply to any actions or subdivisions or projects that were taken during the ban, which is 25 years.
2000,
So
yep,
any
24 years.
projects that have been before the boards and have been approved are exempt from that provision or that exception that's in the state
Yep.
guidelines for
Right.
them. So it sounds like, oh yeah, just call them up, but there's nowhere to go because they just say, well, you're beyond 650 gallons a day. That's more, then you can't do it. So that's why it's important that that date is a real date to, members of the community and property owners who've been patient for.
Can't change the past, but the good news is there is a deadline.
Yeah, that's
And
really,
that's
that
the
was
date,
really the thing.
October 25, and I wholeheartedly, if anything, it'll be sooner.
They indicated they're going to meet it or later.
And then to that end, is there progress on the Millington Tifa project? Are they?
They have to wait for exactly what you're describing.
Mhm.
And we get love letters from them pretty often.
Every 6 months.
And we remind them October
I
2025.
sent a few love letters to my own to them, by the way. And the last thing I wanted to say is thank you to all of you. Everyone's thanked you enough, but I've been here a long time. I've been before all the boards for various things. It's a different township than it was 25, 30 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Some of you have really made a big difference, and it goes without saying, or sometimes you don't get the recognition. I mean, I know two of the members, Mr. Valenzi is not here, and Mr. Dorsey's not here, but it's a different type of administration, and specifically to Mr. Ray, who we're going to dearly miss, and he's always on all the boards, and in my experience has been a voice of reason and logic and sort of a steady rudder, and it's oftentimes we get swept up in, well, let's go with the current because it's easy. And Brendan, you've historically swum against the current, and it's appreciated and noticed and professional and polite. And anyway, enough said. You guys have done a great job and appreciate the time tonight.
Thank you for the kind words.
Thanks, Bill.
Hi.
Hi, John Myskowski, happily living on Cottage Place West for the last 5 years in Gillette. Question is, when the weather's nice, we like to take walks in the neighborhood, and there's been lately a lot of trepidation about crossing over Mountain Ave, even though there's a crosswalk there.
Yeah.
A number of times, cars coming down the hill, there's a blind spot, they can't see it. Just last week, there was person who was in this crosswalk and two cars came by, didn't even stop. Can we get those signs put in the crosswalks, reminding people it's a state law to stop when there are people in them?
I want to make sure, and by the way, just last week I was coming north on that road and there was a family crossing, and I stopped and they said, "Oh, thank you." And I went, I'm required to, but you're welcome.
Right.
Are you saying that the walk is not painted, or what's not
There is a
there?
crosswalk, but there's no sign that, there's none of those orange signs that say it's a New Jersey law, you have to stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk.
That's a county road, right? Yeah, it's a county road. Can we put
Yes.
that in without their permission?
No, we'd have to get their permission.
Is this an example? Well, I shouldn't say this publicly. Is this an example, Brendan, your voice of reason? Is this an example, ask
If you do it, that's right.
Beg for
I didn't say you
Whatever
could-
that saying
I
is.
didn't say you could do it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only on Mountain. I mean, that's a particularly busy road, but I get it on Northfield. There's and that's right by the school. People don't know that it's a crosswalk.
I'm sure there's other roads in the towns that could benefit from having the signs up as well. It's just the
How
one
about
that's
this? The
closest
less
to me.
we say, especially where it involves county roads, Randy, would you work with Director Gallo and so Mountain, Northfield, any other suggestions, please?
There's one in there's another one right on Main Avenue in Sterling.
Where it's kind of faded.
Yeah,
and
it's
no
just
signs?
yep.
And there's a number of signs that are either faded or obscured by trees. Al's got to get in there and trim them out.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I've seen in surrounding towns is those orange flags, and they seem to have they've been there
I
for
know
a
New
couple of
Providence
years,
does that,
right? And they seem to work, and they certainly give visibility to drivers.
It's dirt cheap. I mentioned Mayor Morgan from New Providence. I called him up and said, "How do you do that?" And I'm not a very handy person, as my wife likes to point out. And Al said, "You get the flags. You can pay maybe $10 at Home Depot, or you can go to a construction site and steal them. We won't do that." And as far as those little buckets that they're held in or whatever.
He just wants a sign that says state
No,
law.
no,
You can't-
Oh, no, but I'm saying what Brendan said,
Right.
recommending,
Yeah.
maybe in certain areas, especially the one you're referring to, that is a tough turn, because that road is 35, where at least Northfield is 25. You're
Yeah,
supposed to,
I
right?
think the signs
more.
are
It's
more
more.
productive than somebody running across the street with a flag. Just my
Yeah,
my
but,
thought.
I mean,
I've
it is
seen
true.
I've
You know,
seen it
we'll
on
work
other
on it.
towns.
It
every
is true, but
morning,
when it comes to some of the situations, I walk on Northfield and cross there, and a sign is great, but give me the maximum amount of visibility
Are you sure
to
some
a
of those
driver.
cars aren't delivered, though? You knew they were
It
coming
could
out.
be.
It was too easy.
It could very well be, but no, I mean, the maximum visibility is it works to all our benefit, and so. The orange flag, I've seen it. I notice it when I'm driving through New Providence and some of the other towns
We're becoming
as well.
we're a popular town for those who live here, but we're becoming a more popular town, and with that comes a challenge. That's why the master plan getting done was very important, and I forget which person who spoke earlier. I was thinking to myself, how are these kids riding a bike? Anything we can do to improve pedestrian safety in this town, I think we can and should do. And because it's only going to get, we're going to become more and more popular, in part because of places, destination places like Oak Flower.
Right.
We have 3 train stations. There's going to be 1C trips into Manhattan. That's what changed South Street in Morristown. We're going to change, I think, for the better. And the lifting of the sewer ban, there's a lot of things happening all at once. People know where Long Hill is. Prism was mentioned. That's a real developer. That's not a fly-by-night. Elite, same thing. The good news is people now know where Long Hill is. But with that comes challenges. So one of which I think you just pointed out. So
I think the answer is Randy will take it to the Traffic Safety Committee, and we'll be good to go.
We'll
Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, thanks, because I know with the summer, it's a lot less, but certainly as it starts getting cooler in the fall months, there's going to be a lot of activity, so, if they
Thank
can
you.
be up sooner, or when they can, it'd be greatly appreciated, so thank you.
Thank you for bringing